Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to ETN, the most European podcast in the world. What a day today.
Fun
We've got a lot of
times.
news. Everyone's been seeing what's been going on with the labs, Anthropic, OpenAI, the Department of War in the US. More importantly, before we get into all of that, we have a new partner. It's Framer. Build better sites faster, the all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. We migrated ETN to Framer ourselves seamlessly. You can too at framer.com/ETN.
Look at that. Look at that beautiful
Look at
mug.
these. Can we?
Very nice.
Can the stream get a good view over here? Oh, on this close-up. We're going to do a zoom in. My new Framer mug. How good is that?
Nice.
Shout out to the team.
Shout out to the team.
We're absolutely buzzing to have the founder on later. It's going to be good. Cohen, we're going to jump into a little bit of history about what Framer is, what do they do, and then talk a little bit more about taste and design in the modern era. Everyone knows it's been going a little bit viral recently. We've been seeing a lot of takes on what is good taste, what is bad taste. A lot of those
And
takes
taste is the only moat nowadays, apparently.
Taste is the only moat. Yeah, a lot of the takes have been coming from people who would traditionally not have any
code
taste.
is a commodity that is ripe and you can get it anywhere. It grows on trees now. So taste and direction is the only thing in design.
There you go. You heard it.
Hence why Framer of they've doubled down on their mug game.
These are honestly, you can't. This isn't a 4D show, so you can't actually feel our environment like we can.
Oh, that's good.
But this is such a well-crafted, well-designed mug. I would buy this for my home. It's ceramic. Maybe you can hear if I... So now you get a little bit of an understanding for just how good.
Now we are a 4D show.
Yeah, that was quite like... have you ever done like a 4D experience?
No.
Have you not?
No.
I remember
I don't
ages
even know
ago,
what that is. What is that?
It's like it's obviously of like 3D when you're in a cinema and you're wearing those old. I mean, it doesn't happen anymore actually. Now I think about it, but when 3D was getting pretty hyped and you go into a cinema and you'd wear.
What 3D isn't a thing anymore? I don't really go to the cinema very often, but
Oh yeah, you don't like enjoying yourself or have any fun, do you? But when people did,
I
used
just
to
monitor
do
the
that.
situation on X.
When people did, used to
basically
do
all I
that.
do.
But like you've been to a 3D film, right?
Yeah. I've
So,
done 3D.
you've like worn the glasses, the red and the blue.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
and I'm only
That's a
realizing
pretty
now
legacy thing to do.
it's gone out of fashion now. I don't know why. I used to,
Because it's legacy, right?
but it was fun.
but
There's
it
no
hasn't-
reason for it to go.
Also, it kind of hurt your eyes. It's kind of like
No, it-
I'd rather just enjoy a movie 2D.
Yeah, fair. But well, anyway, 4D.
I think that's
was-
what I think that's what it got to. It's like
People just couldn't be
this
bothered.
is great, but it's a legacy thing. It's a
Yeah, but I don't understand why it went out of
it's an
fashion.
early 2000s. Whoa, 3D crazy, and then
Yeah, but
4D
but
was a
nothing
thing. They
wipes
probably
it
still
out.
do it, but
Nothing replaced it. It wasn't like we moved past.
taste in movies. Just good taste, just good tasteful movies.
I
in
guess, yeah, you
3D.
don't really go
the
to-
story. You're going to the cinema for the story, for watching it on the big screen. You don't need 3D.
I don't know. I think bring back 3D. However, 4D. I don't know how we got here, but I might as well finish it. I think I went to Disney World when I was like 8.
Oh God,
And
how have we got to this point?
we were watching a film in their like 4D arena thing.
Yeah.
And it's like on the film there were like rats running through the bit of the film or whatever on the screen.
Oh yeah.
And there were like vibrations from underneath the floor to make it feel like the rats were like running over your feet. So that was like the 4D experience,
That's
which
pretty
I
cool.
thought was quite cool.
Well, hopefully we don't have any rats today. But anyway, just quickly, leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business.
Get it behind
Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform.
Go to airwallex.com.
Boom. Let's jump into the news. There's beef. OpenAI have signed the deal with the government. Anthropic. Huge beef. Let's dive in.
Well, I was going to say, should we just go over the guests maybe before?
Nah.
Just go straight in.
Yeah, straight
in on the news.
Yeah, guests.
Cool. Let's do it. Guests can wait, apparently.
We'll wait.
This has been a developing story. I think maybe let's do the article first. And we're not going to pull this one up just because there's so much to go into. We can just read this out. But if you've been not living under a rock, you will have seen.
We're going to break it down.
Anthropic is currently battling with the Trump administration for the use of Claude internally for sort of use cases related to the current war and I guess ongoing wars in the future. They wanted full-blown access to the models, and there has been a whole saga surrounding this, and we can break down the saga in terms of like a chronological order, how the story is developed. But before we do that, these two pieces of news are relatively breaking. One has just broke that we'll go over after this one, but essentially Anthropic is set to sue the Trump administration after the AI lab was labeled a security risk by Peter Westgart. So Anthropic has promised a legal challenge after it was labeled a security risk by the Pentagon and banned from government contracts, escalating a battle between the AI lab and the Trump administration. US President Donald Trump on Friday gave Anthropic 6 months until it is cut from government contracts, saying the AI startup made a disastrous mistake in challenging the Pentagon over military use of its Claude technology. Just quickly here, 6 months for the government to roll off Claude. If we just think about now how much changes in a week.
How much 6 months is, yeah.
Like there could be AGI.
But they were saying the reason why it's 6 months is, I think the article mentions it, right? It's it allows for something to happen. Let me try and find it.
Well, President Trump said just at the top of the article on.
Oh really?
Literally right at the start. But the president said on a Truth Social post, because as we know, Donald Trump doesn't use X. I think he was banned off X and then was sort of reinstated by Musk previously, but I think just decided to keep using Truth Social, which is his sort of equivalent of the platform. He said on a Truth Social post, the president said on a Truth Social post that he would not allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. The Pentagon then designated Anthropic a supply chain risk as unprecedented action against an American company. This is probably the biggest story in our space in the world right now. I think it is broken technology barriers, obviously, because there's a deeper debate here where it seems to have like politicized AI labs in a way, right? Like sort of more liberal thinking individuals are now leaning towards Claude, and I guess the hardcore, maybe right-wing people are more aligned with OpenAI's relationship with the government. Just to maybe go over like how did we get here? What does the chronological flow look like? We've kind of mapped this all out, and I think it starts really back with the Venezuelan situation. And people saw, like this when the US very sort of efficiently and quickly captured Nicolas Maduro. There was a leak on, this is between like January to Feb 14th essentially, but there was a leak on February the 14th. The Wall Street Journal reported that Anthropic's Claude was used in the raid via a partnership with Palantir. This is when all the memes of Maduro came out and he's wearing like a Nike Tech fleece and a helicopter. And everyone's like, huge sponsorship opportunity for Nike. Maybe not their typical marketing.
They didn't consequently lean into that.
They did not. I could see certain
that wasn't. That makes it sound like that was the reason why.
No, sorry,
why they thought that they were. That Claude was involved.
No. So
wasn't because of that.
That was initially starting rumors of these tools that everyone knows and loves being used in a military setting. So Anthropic then issued a guarded statement saying we cannot comment on whether Claude was used for any specific operation. Any use is required to comply with our usage policies. Then we come to Feb 15th to Feb 23. This is literally just Feb gone. The government, which was pretty frustrated by Anthropic's interference in military operations, demanded a new contract with any lawful use clause. So Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth met with Dario at the Pentagon on February 23rd, and Hegseth basically gave him a hard deadline. Dario had to allow the Pentagon full access into Claude by Friday at 1 minute past 5 p.m. and to drop his red lines, which is a quote. Hegseth's sort of stand here was like, American warfighters will never be held hostage by ideological whims of big tech.
Basically, move out the way, let us do our job with the thing that you guys have created. You're your company policies don't apply to the Department of War and the US military.
And this was unfolding live on X.
I'm surprised. I don't know if anyone predicted this, but I'm surprised this hasn't almost like been predicted. I've never seen anything within predictions, but you can imagine with the military, if something happens and they're going to use the best tools on the market, right? And if they can use frontier AI models, and at the moment Claude is easily at the top in my opinion. And I think in you can see that on the Polymarket graph. It's literally like the best model by far. It's just like you could have predicted this, right? The military are going to do the best that they can to do the job that they can. They're going to use the frontier models. They're going to use the best things. But Anthropic being heavily kind of like research led and
well, they were founded on principles
heavily
of like
moral.
safety.
Yeah, exactly. Safety and not like kind of regulation, but safety was the key thing. And this obviously goes against policies. Yes, I feel like someone should have predicted this.
Yeah, and like
I'm surprised we haven't seen that.
Yeah. The
like it's kind of just come out of the blue.
Yeah, it's very.
I mean, maybe
I think
it was
you're
just a
right.
given.
Like, this was bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But maybe it was a given that these AI models, you can kind of use them any way, shape, or form that you want to. I guess it's a tough one. But I'm so surprised no one's been like, this will happen. It was not in predictions at all.
People weren't seeing it.
I assume you would just think that the model makers will just I guess roll over for an organization like the military of war.
There you are. Like, they're privately held companies. Like, should they have to bend the knee and allow a government through into their, and see all their internal docs and use it by any means necessary? Yes, maybe if it's like, hey, look, we need to access your accounting software company because we want to improve our accounting. Obviously, that's fine. But in this specific regard, when it's ending in the potential for a loss of human life, then Dario could sit there and feel that he was maybe somewhat responsible for that, even though he set out and not.
That's why I'm surprised no one kind of predicted this. Not that someone should, but
Well, I think Demis at DeepMind
then the AI industry, the whole AI industry, all of the kind of model makers, everyone at the frontier seemed to kind of be all like standing up in solidarity for.
But before this, like, so all of these quotes, all of these sort of these conversations were being broadcast, tweeted out live on X. We were watching Hegseth, and I think there was a bit of people were saying it may have seemed like a bit of not a meltdown of sorts, but kind of like a quite a visceral, quick reaction where he started sort of getting sort of emotional, you could maybe say, against Dario, was using like insults against Dario basically publicly, which didn't really come off that great for him particularly. Then we moved to this. This was like, you couldn't write this into. This is honestly like a drama. Like this could easily be a film. Like, easily be a film.
We're actually just reading script to the new Nolan movie.
Nolan should definitely pick this up actually. Or maybe
I don't know, would they be
Wes Anderson would be a nice version, like a nice arty,
a little arty
more I think Nolan would be more OpenAI. Wes Anderson might be on a bit of an Anthropic hype.
I like that. I think that
could work. Kind of like Grand Budapest Hotel in a way, but it's Anthropic. Like it's at the Anthropic offices instead of the Grand Budapest Hotel. I don't know. We're just spitballing.
You know that scene where in the Grand Budapest Hotel. I think it's in that.
Have
movie.
you seen it?
Where
I'm very surprised.
I know, right?
Because Chris Pratt isn't in it.
I'm pretty awful. What? Fine. You know that scene where like the bread comes and he like cuts it. Is that in that movie? And then the cheese comes and he like cuts it. Whatever.
When he's in the prison.
You can see like I don't know, like they change all of those for like I don't know,
co-op AI, like tinkering.
Yeah.
No, it's
new
good.
prompts.
We love his style. Huge fan of Wes Anderson.
Anyway, the solidarity moment as we were on.
Yeah, so this is on Feb 25. There was essentially like an open letter. So over 700 employees from OpenAI and Google signed the "We Will Not Be Divided" letter. We were also seeing at the same time, people graffitiing, you could say, using chalk outside the OpenAI offices in San Francisco, basically sending letters of plea. They were pleading, please don't do this. Like a lot of sort of graffiti all over, which is basically showing like the public's opinion, and also workers of OpenAI as well. So they do this "We Will Not Be Divided" letter. People openly criticizing the stance that the US government is taking in relation to Anthropic and how they're dealing with the situation.
Yeah.
And then basically we see Sam Altman goes on to CNBC, and I saw this clip live. Essentially,
there were some great memes to come out of this, by the way.
Like the words that people are saying are siding with Anthropic. I don't think there's nuance within that, but Sam was basically saying like to be honest, no, it was siding in a way, because he says like we support Anthropic's right to say hold on here.
There were two sides, and he was saying we support one side.
Yeah, that's a fair, black and white, I guess, with that.
And at that point, everything was good.
Well, I was kind of thinking that was quite a cool moment.
When Darren Altman don't hold hands in India.
That was nuts.
Someone obviously made them hold hands with AI and retweeted that with that picture.
Yeah, wow, that could have been such a powerful image.
I just thought that was so clever. It was so powerful. Yeah. They're both going to have that printed in their offices tomorrow. Yeah. It's going to be great.
That could have been a real powerful moment for the AI industry.
But maybe not.
But Sam had other plans. So then we see.
Do you think this was calculated? Or do you think it was like, oh no, whoops, I've kind of made the wrong decision, I'm going to go?
I think we've just, so basically to get onto this, there's some breaking news this morning around Sam. I mean, 6 hours ago, around his thought process now.
Breaking.
But we can get back to that quickly. So then we have, with the open letter we do, and then CNBC, he goes on and he does specifically mention that he called the government's threats counterproductive in terms of how they were dealing with the situation. And it was quite obvious that the way, there was a bit of an emotional meltdown live in public via their tweets. I think it seemed like they were reacting very quickly and letting emotion do the talking. And then Trump comes out with a sort of a scathing post on Truth Social. The United States of America will never allow a radical left woke company to dictate how our great military fights and wins wars. The left-wing nut jobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake. And then this is now where we come into the supply chain risk to national security. This is Secretary Hegseth formally labels Anthropic as a supply chain risk to national security. A label usually reserved for foreign adversaries like Huawei. So now this sends a very dangerous message to any American, not just AI lab, but any American company, in the sense where it's if you don't allow us or if you don't behave, then hey buddy,
you're foreign.
You're a supply chain risk.
Classed as
you're not one of us, which is dangerous, right? Because it's kind of sending a message to any other US company we can do this and we will do this if you don't sort of regardless of what the current public opinion is or where the public are leaning. If you don't do this, this is a problem. And there's also a counter argument to this in the sense where, yes, people might not be supportive of using the technology at the frontier technology in terms of fighting warfare and defending one's country against others. But I think in a weird way here, it kind of shows, not to get too political, but it kind of shows the amount of trust that these leaders do have in the individual that they're sort of promising access to, right? Because if it was going to be used for defense or something like that, then maybe it would be okay, but it's not necessarily defense. Maybe it's related to offense now. Okay, well, do we trust them to abide within the confines of what we discussed in terms of...
Well, look, it's hard. As I mentioned before, it is a tricky situation because are you now, we're only... Think about now, it's the worst the models will ever be. In 6 months, they'll be far better and probably way better than how the military are using them now. And they're bypassing some of the regulations and things that these private companies have put in place. And if you think about it, in 6 month time, especially, or in the future generally, it will be the military will have to, or organizations similar to the military will have to, lower the performance threshold where they could get a job done faster or more convincingly, regardless of what that job is, with a model that doesn't have all of the regulation, or you follow the rules, but it's like you're a government agency. Should they have the rules? So it's a really it's a weird situation.
It's really one that we've probably
because
not
obviously
seen.
you can have things that people morally and politically don't believe are correct, and some people may believe that they're correct to go and do a job, and then it just brings that whole how are we using the model to do that job? It's really
and that was tough. The whole premise was kind of around a nuance of the contract in terms of could they use it. People wanted to have a human in the loop they didn't want just autonomous drones murdering people essentially. They wanted a human in the loop to kind of balance it out a little bit. But we can get onto that specifically as well. But then
what does safety guardrails mean? What does that entail?
Yeah, there's so many grey areas
safety
of what people say and how they actually act. But then we come into what people have kind of duped the OpenAI swoop. So obviously they raised 110 billion, 840 billion valuation led by Amazon, Nvidia, and SoftBank. This finally comes through after months and months of it being discussed and rumored. There were rumors of is it actually going to happen? Did they actually have the funding? I think Musk was pretty prolific in saying I know they don't have the money.
Microsoft didn't follow through.
Oh right, interesting. They're not involved.
No.
Oh wow.
And they were.
I think maybe they did a bit.
Not in this deal.
Really?
No.
Okay, can we check that? I think
I'm pretty sure they did.
They might have. Anyway,
Gemini.
But so they closed the funding round, and it was almost like comedy. It was Sam has just come off CNBC. The funding round is announced, but also with the funding round, a little bit either before or later, I can't remember exactly the timing, whether it was just before or just after, but OpenAI announced a deal with the Department of War to take over the classified work.
Actually, no, Microsoft did not participate in OpenAI's massive $110 billion funding round announced in late February. Microsoft has historically been OpenAI's primary backer. This specific record-breaking round was led by a different trio of tech and investment giants.
Gotta love Gemini.
Very, very AI response. Gemini.
Great question. This isn't just a fundraise.
You're amazing. This isn't just a fundraise. This is a narrative shift.
That's a good one. The narrative shift is a good one. And then Altman comes out and he's basically like, hey guys, we did the deal, and then things blew up. Everyone was basically because you couldn't have just written this. It was honestly like a story. Every story has a villain. Every story has a hero. Every story has an underdog, and it was quite clear that whether they liked it or not, these shapes were already forming. The characters were already forming. The story arc was already being created live in front of us, and now we're seeing this divide. Or I guess almost like a solidarity, I stand with Claude moment, but it's also now, that's not just the fact that you stand with Claude, it's also a message to the Department of War saying, you can't just bend us to your will. And Katy Perry. Katy Perry went viral for switching to the Claude subscription.
So what's most interesting now is how Anthropic have been able to kind of change this, and what's now happened, because the market seems to has really turned their back on OpenAI. Obviously, they've just raised $110 billion of latest funding, which is that the largest private deal ever? I believe it is.
It must be.
But the numbers on Anthropic are absolutely wild. So
can we share this?
We need to share this
as well.
So Polymarket has said basically Polymarket is saying that Anthropic will have the best model by the end of March, and still will, despite kind of OpenAI's $110 billion funding round. I believe it's on $63 of volume.
We're tracking
63% by the end of March. The Anthropic will be the best.
So you can see here when was that? That was Feb 6th, Feb 7th, Feb 8th. Google still winning. Anthropic takes it on Feb 11th, which I guess related to the new. Oh, then Google come up again. Okay, and then around the news. Okay, so this, this story of this relationship is the thing that has put them in the front.
It's like a huge bifurcation, right? And it's so interesting. Like Claude now tops the US App Store over ChatGPT after the OpenAI Pentagon deal. On X, this was 2 hours ago. So Anthropic's Claude overtook ChatGPT amid backlash to OpenAI's $200 million Pentagon deal, which followed Anthropic's refusal to ease AI safety rules for military uses like surveillance. Claude's downloads jumped over 80%, while ChatGPT saw a 295% spike in US uninstalls, boosted by Anthropic's free memory feature that recalls user preferences and easily imports from rivals. The rush strained Claude servers, causing outages from unprecedented demand. I don't think that's also the only reason, but as users weighed ethics and reliability in the AI rivalry. So this is just like completely turned the tables on one, best model, two, narrative shift on who is the better model, like regardless of performance, just like what are people using. Obviously you mentioned right at the beginning that this is like now out of the tech sphere, and the fact that OpenAI and Anthropic and the US government are in the headlines, with Anthropic coming out on top and OpenAI being the bad guy, normies are going to switch easily.
Yeah. Where were they lacking previously? Consumer market.
Boom. And then Anthropic have genuinely done something like so clever. It's so clever because they've then shipped someone had a good tweet about this, but they've then shipped, as of yesterday, memory now available on the free plan, which was like they're just increasing stickiness.
Yeah.
So they've got this narrative shift with the normies. Normies aren't going to pay for it straight away, but they've got memory. Bang. And it's like, oh wow, like this is way better than Model is better, maybe performance wise. And I have memory. I can get so much more on Claude than I can OpenAI. And OpenAI is in the bin narratively, in the narrative. Claude came out yesterday, 5.6 million views, saying memory is now available on the free plan. We've also made it easier to import saved memories into Claude. Basically mean you can export from ChatGPT indirectly to Claude.
They're doing a great job.
So genius. It's so
this.
genius. And then there was a great tweet. If you go onto the tweet of Be Anthropic, we can read this out because this is just a great, summary. But anyway, Be Anthropic lost the $200 million Pentagon contract to OpenAI, then climbed to number 1 on the App Store anyway. Then ChatGPT uninstall surged by 295%, and then ship memory to pull ChatGPT users over.
That is at CGTWTSCG. Coming in with the lovely summary there and the great meme usage. Yeah, this is honestly, they've done an insane job at one, capitalizing on the moment, like the speed at which they're iterating from a marketing perspective and kind of making sure the
comms perspective, shipping, narrative, everything is like on point.
And it's crazy, right? Because like this is, in particular, this is like where were they lacking previously, or where were they not losing or anything, but they've made a conscious decision to focus on the enterprise market specifically.
Well, OpenAI just had such a head start, and with ChatGPT just being ingrained in the normies thing.
Yeah.
And now Claude is starting to seep in and change the
eat their lunch. And I saw something the other day, it's like the market share of OpenAI is still sort of falling slightly as they battle with with Google and Anthropic. But it's just not a great, it's not a great look. Everyone can kind of see that already. It's very obvious. There's new sort of developments that literally happened today that we'd love to share with regards to Sam and how he's thinking about what's happened, basically. But Sam put out a tweet. Let's just find this quickly because I literally saw this on the way here today, and it's essentially a bit of a backtrack. So this is like an internal post that he's put out here. It's on 2 million views. Let's just share the screen as well so we can bring this up so our viewers can see.
When was this posted?
10 hours ago. So this is sort of breaking in the morning for us in a way. Here's a repost of an internal post. We've been working with the Department of War to make some additions in our agreement to make our principles very clear. Number one, we are going to amend our deal to add this language in addition to everything else, consistent with applicable laws, including the Fourth Amendment.
I can just see backtracking here.
Yeah, you can feel it, right? To the United States Constitution, National Security Act of 1947, Pfizer Act of 1978. The AI system shall not be intentionally used for domestic surveillance of US persons and nationals. And then a few more points. The second point here, the department also confirmed that our services will not be used by Department of War intelligence agencies, for example, the NSA. Any services to those agents would require a follow-on modification to our contract. Number three, for extreme clarity, we want to work through democratic processes. It should be the government making the key decisions about society. We want to have a voice and a seat at the table where we can share our expertise and to fight for principles of liberty. But we are clear on how the system works because a lot of people have asked if I received what I believed was an unconstitutional order. Of course, I would rather go to jail than follow it. But there are many things the technology just isn't ready for and many areas we don't understand the trade-off required for safety. We will work through these slowly with the Department of War, with technical safeguards and other methods. And then finally, the one thing I did wrong, we shouldn't have rushed to get this out on Friday. So he's openly admitting that this was too quick. The issues are super complex and demand clear communication. We are genuinely trying to de-escalate things and avoid a much worse outcome, but I think I just looked opportunistic and sloppy. A good learning experience for me as we face higher stakes decisions in the future. In my conversations over the weekend, I reiterated that Anthropic should not be designated as an SCR and that we hope the Department of War offers them the same terms we've agreed to. We'll host an all hands tomorrow morning to answer more questions. So this, not only is this a message to the public, this is also a message to the employee.
In the FT article that dropped?
So yeah, let's get that up actually, because that's a good.
Because if this is only on X, like
no, it's in the FT as well. The FT did a great job.
My dad's not on X.
Picking.
He might read the FT and be like, kind of like that OpenAI guy.
Yeah, this AI thing's really taking off. So the FT came out with this literally how long ago? 8 hours ago.
This was before the tweet. No, sorry. The tweet was 10 hours ago.
10 hours, yeah. I was like, what the hell?
I thought you said 6 for some reason.
Breaking my brain.
My bad.
But before we go into this quickly, Sam's message is yes, a message for the public, like he's sharing it in public, but he intros that saying like I'm resharing an internal post. He mentioned at the end, we're going to have an all hands to sort this out. Like this is, you can imagine that OpenAI employees are probably pretty like, hey dude, this isn't cool. Like you're coming off pretty bad here.
Going to work on the Tuesday morning, like, do I want to be walking into the
that's
office?
definitely definitely something that a lot of people would consider, and a lot of these people make enough money that they wouldn't be out of pocket if they did leave. They just go to Anthropic.
Before you get onto that, 700 employees at Google and OpenAI signing open letter backing Anthropic's position. And surely that's like a great position for Anthropic to be in a hiring
I would have recruiters straight into the nearest coffee shops all around the OpenAI offices.
Do they have the emails of all the employees that signed that letter?
I'm sure they do.
Maybe not, but they definitely have the names.
I'm sure. I'm sure that
run an email ad campaign on those guys and get them signed over to Anthropic straight away.
Absolutely.
It basically just accelerates one narrative of non-techies switching over, which was the only thing that OpenAI had at the moment.
Yeah.
Model is already better. Devs are using Anthropic. Claude is shipping. Anthropic is shipping like absolute crazy to beat the Peter acquisition and OpenClaw, and they're doing a very, very good job to kind of combat that. Because that was seen as a drop of the ball. And also they look like they're in a great position, like the way that the top AI researchers are going, the flow is towards Anthropic and away from others, maybe Google as well, but Anthropic especially but away from OpenAI is the only thing. Yeah. Or the main thing.
Just looking at this article, it kind of just summarizes everything up really about what we've just discussed. Okay.
I also want to touch on if you go onto the Akash post, this is good because he has a good quote in this, and I think it's worth reading out. So Akash Gupta, obviously known on X for kind of posting a lot of his reactions. Anyway, so he said Claude went from 131 on the App Store in late Jan to number 1 this weekend. Do you want to get this on screen?
Sorry.
Past ChatGPT, free users up 60% since January. Paid subs doubled this year. Daily signups breaking all-time records every day this week. And Anthropic's response to all other attention, ship memory on the free plan, make the free tier stickier at the exact moment millions of new users are flooding in. The math tells you everything about how they view this moment. This is actually super interesting. Pentagon contract was worth 200 million. Anthropic does 14 billion in revenue. What that is 1.4% of revenue. They traded 1.4% of revenue. This is the quote. They traded 1.4% of revenue for number 1 app in America and brand loyalty moment that no ad budget on earth could manufacture. As we were talking about, the narrative shift that they've got in the normie camp. The consumer market opened wide for them at the precise moment the DOW's supply chain risk designation was supposed to shut them down. Katy Perry posting her Claude Pro subscription, Reddit organizing ChatGPT cancellations, 700 employees at Google and OpenAI signing an open letter backing Anthropic's position. Every product leader should study this sequence. The designation was supposed to be a punishment. Anthropic converted it into the largest consumer acquisition event in AI history, then immediately shipped product to retain every new user walking through the door. This team is operating at the highest levels right now. A little bit of AI slop in there, but it's a good take.
It is a good take. It is a good summary.
It's so true, right? It's like, do we want to have this addition of 1.4% of revenue, or do we literally change the game, completely turn the tables on the narrative of OpenAI versus Anthropic?
Yeah, perhaps two contesting arguments is that obviously that $200 million contract, it's obviously a good amount of money, but comparably it's not it's obviously a lot of money, but to an AI lab, it's not the maddest thing in the world, these numbers, right? They're raising 110 billion.
It's the tailwinds of that.
But I think within that's interesting because, Anthropic, we're kind of we're good. Obviously we have these sort of ethical code stuff and it doesn't sound like we can get to a position that we're comfortable with you guys. But OpenAI, I'm trying to work out whether Sam's thinking is more, and I think it is, that he genuinely does care. I don't think he's running in we need to scoop up that contract real quick. I think he genuinely does care and does genuinely want to help.
They're in competition, right? And at the time before he signed, he thought it was a good idea to sign. Turns out it wasn't a good idea because of the tailwinds, the backlash that it's got. And now he's obviously backtracking, which naturally you would, right? It's just a bad decision. But these decisions, it's such a bad decision because changing, basically getting OpenAI behind Claude as the number 1 in normal people's minds was the main thing, and that's so hard to switch back.
Yeah, that's hard.
People don't forget, right?
Yeah.
And maybe we do because we're in this, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the people in tech are, but these people see the headline, they understand that Anthropic has kind of stood up against something that they might have seen as wrong. They've been blacklisted for that, but are still standing by it. It's that's the biggest thing. There was a good article released by The Guardian today that said Anthropic's AI model Claude gets popularity boost after US military fraud. The AI model Claude has surged in popularity after being blacklisted by the Pentagon last week over ethics concerns. Claude climbed to number 1 spot on Apple's chart of top free apps on Saturday in the US, dethroning OpenAI's ChatGPT just one day after the Pentagon tapped OpenAI to supply AI to classified military networks. It's just so clever, man. It's so clever. But I'm kind of annoyed that the article, the picture that they use, they don't have Claude.
A stock image of you can. It's not been downloaded yet.
No. The Guardian should download Claude if they're not.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what happens next. There were rumors as well of Grok, possibly. I mean, it came out that Grok was we're going to work with the DOW, and it's kind of Everyone's like, okay, cool, man. Like, what are the?
You can see from that
doing?
you can see from that poly market graph, they're just like nowhere near.
Yeah, they're just not even in the conversation. I mean, that's like a branding thing that they've done. But
speaking about poly market, the world's largest prediction market, stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com.
Go to polymarket.com. Next guest coming on the show, first guest coming on the show is 00 Dom Hallis.
Yeah, that was the quickest 40 minutes of my life. That went so quickly.
Yeah, that did go quite quick.
Time flies.
00 Dom Hallis, the executive at the Startup Coalition. Dom is a returning guest. He's becoming basically someone that we can call in our time of need when we need an expert opinion of the interrelations between government and tech and policy.
He is the guiding light of ETN.
He is the bridge for us, and we're eternally grateful. There was a lot of comments online about the photo that was used for Dom in his guest announcement that went out today. I think Dom himself commented, "Christ, that's a throwback," and it was a photo from Dom's earlier years in his career. A few other people were asking, how did you get this photo? Where did you get this from? And I had to let them know, like, look, we have a small SWAT team that works 24/7 specifically for Dom Hallis at ETN.
Claude.
We cost us a lot of money. It's incredibly loss making, but it's worth it to get great guest photos like that one for Dom Hallis. It kind of looks like a little bit like James Bond.
Yeah. He was in his James Bond era. Can I get this? I really want the Mads tweet up on the stream. So bad.
You want to?
It's just so good.
Let's play. You want to? Okay.
Life after switching to ChatGPT from ChatGPT to Claude.
Does it have sound?
Yeah.
Let's just enjoy this before Dom joins us.
It's very European. You know, Mads is the European OG.
I've not seen this film. I need to watch it. It like won loads of awards.
It's when he swapped from ChatGPT to Claude.
Is this like
live?
This is a live reaction, is it?
Yeah.
Let's pause that. What a lovely tune.
That is a great tune.
Yeah, welcoming in Dom Hallis in 3 minutes. Before we do that, shall we just have a quick look at some other tweets that we've got to go through?
Indeed. Before we do that, Framer build better sites faster. The all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. We migrated ETN to Framer, and it was easy, dude. It was easy.
Two non-technical guys, as is very, very, very
hacking
obvious.
away, but realistically, Framer just made it easy. But anyway, go to framer.com.
/ETN.
/ETN.
Looking at the next set, I mean, we've got some more news that I want to go into, but I want to maybe let's hold off on that just before.
Yeah, let's just go through some cool tweets.
Specifically the intercom story that Owen put out recently. It looks really great.
Let's do this. This is cool.
Okay.
Have you seen? I know we're literally about to have Dom on, but I want to like jump into this. Have you seen the this NYC relocation business? So clever. Okay, so this guy at Do Lab, his actual name apparently is just Do.
The Do Lab.
Finally figured out how to monetize my love for NYC. I feel like David Gelberg should do this for London. He loves London. He would be unbelievable. I'm going to pitch this to him.
Gelberg would do very well at this.
I'm going to read this out. So if you go onto the if you go onto the doc, NYC relocation done properly. I help high growth companies relocate top talent to NYC without stress or friction. Hiring great people from out of state is hard. Losing weeks of productivity because they're overwhelmed by because I think NYC is expensive. I handle the entire relocation experience so your hires show up focused, settled, and excited to be here. What he does, for each hire, he handles neighborhood matching, apartment sourcing, lease strategy, move-in logistics, and lifestyle onboarding.
Damn.
Your hire texts me like a friend, I move fast, and they feel taken care of from day one. This
Let's
is
go.
so clever.
Just a little like a concierge almost.
You're just a concierge for high growth startups. They're like, okay, we'll pay this guy 10K to just like get all of my employees, all the 3 hires I've just made to get into a good home, whatever. They don't have to focus on anything. They don't have to do it. It's a concierge service.
I'll just, where are all the coolest spots?
Genuinely such a clever, that needs to have more views. It's only got 75,000 views.
Where's the best bowling alley?
Yeah. If you're into if you're into bowling.
Not a bowler.
He then quoted the post and said, "The reception on this has been incredible so far. Founders interested in learning more, shoot me a DM. If we have any good mutuals in common, definitely bring that up in our convo for your benefit. Luck enjoys interested in exploring potential partnership opportunities. Shoot me a DM as well. Recruiters, VCs, know a guy / girl guys / girls, etc.
So
Hit
cool.
me up with cool ideas, and we can find cool ways to introduce cool people to each other." It's so clever.
Awesome.
It's so clever.
Shout out to him.
David Gelberg, you need to jump on that.
Yeah,
for sure.
Gelberg, get on it. Our next guest, as we previously introed, Dom Hallis is coming into the studio as we speak.
Back in the game.
Let me make this more official by sounding the official Dom Hallis trumpets.
Is that what I
welcome
get?
in.
Have I got
Yeah.
music now? Is it that?
Dom,
is it that off?
Yeah. You're on the show all the time.
These are the Dom Hallis trumpets. We were just talking about the 00 Dom Hallis guest announcement. What did you think of that?
Honestly, like absolutely outrageous. I thought this is how you guys get me back on, is you have like compliment on me from when I was like 20 years old. Like we were joking. I got 2 funny texts about it. One, well, I got like about 25 funny texts about it, but like the 2 that made me laugh. One person was like, "You look like an 80s banker." And I do have that vibe of like I've closed down the village bookshop and I'm going to turn it into a Ladbrokes. Do you know what I mean? The other was James Wise, our dear friend, and I know you guys know him as well, who, Bulletin, who texted me being like, "You look like the head boy of a school." I was like, "Yeah, no, it's not great." But anyway, thanks for taking me down.
That is good.
It's the depressing memory lane in the world. I appreciate it, lads.
That is very good. The head boy
was
of the
this guy,
school
by the
is
way.
very, very, very accurate. That
It was
is
dangerously accurate for sure.
yeah, that's a good one. We were thinking a little bit Don Draper like from Mad Men as well.
You boys know how to flatter me. I'll take it.
All to get you on, Dom.
Yeah.
Look, but we've been discussing this morning. The situation with Claude, the situation with OpenAI, the situation with the government, and the interrelations, the relationship between technology startups and what have now become very, very powerful technology startups, these AI labs. What is happening here? Like, what is the message that this is sending? And is there like a moral right that one should have, and a right that maybe they have to serve their country? But then now we're talking about ethics, and like maybe loss of human life is involved with these decisions. What is your take on the whole situation?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I thought you were going to be getting me on to talk about the biggest news of the day, which is Rachel Reeves' spring statement. But it's fine. We'll get to that, I'm sure. Look, like I think it's really interesting, right? Because it almost harks back to a slightly different era of like technology conversation, right? Like I think that this sort of discussion of the sort of ethical frameworks and structures, the way in which companies operate, does hark back right to what was the Google original "Don't be evil" stuff, right? And I think that in truth, like as companies have grown globally and you see this sort of global reach, that means very different things in different places, and people have realized that it's more complicated. I had a really funny conversation with a very senior former intelligence official in the UK who described that era of technology back in the day as like, well, we didn't know whether people, how did he put it? He said that it was, to us, that looked like moral equivalence. Actually, it's really important that actually that's what you're seeing increasingly, is this trade-offs between what people believe is the sort of moral values of founders as how they want to deliver their business, and then the practical experiences of interacting with the global geopolitics of technology. I think that ultimately, like what we're bumping up against is who has the right to decide, right? As in, it's like, does Dario and the management and the board have the right to decide like how their technology is used in a sort of essentially like within the framework of their company, but ultimately not within a democratic framework, right? As in they are owners of a business. Or does a democratically elected government in this case, or in some cases, depending on where you are in the world, a less democratically structured government, have say over how it's delivered? And that's an inherent tension. I think what's interesting is, from a kind of European or certainly UK perspective, is that in some ways, these American debates are new to the United States. But ultimately, like this question of who has control of these technologies and what this means has been very different to Europeans and very different to people outside of the US for a very long time. Because it's turned out that actually they're not British companies or they're not European companies. And so at some level, like we're more kind of not necessarily comfortable with the debate, but more aware of those trade-offs of, these are largely American companies who are thinking about it from an American perspective when it comes to a lot of these questions of how technology is utilized, compared to obviously now them bumping up in a fairly political way. Whatever you think of the Trump administration or you think of Anthropic, like this inherent tension between the political views of the two sort of parties involved. And yeah, it's a tricky balance for sure.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation in which it's kind of becoming they've politicized the AI labs. I saw someone tweet out in a way, and it's not only that,
right? I think what's interesting is like I said, and I mean it's certainly how the administration thinks in the US is like, you on our side, right? And I think that for lots of reasons, like Anthropic and however they've thought about it, have found themselves on the wrong side of that from the administration point of view. I think the question is, if you look back at the past sort of 10 years, it's quite clear that a lot of certainly the large American labs, but also the large American tech companies have gone on a journey with this stuff and they worked out how to come to more of a kind of accommodation with the current administration and the people who run it. And that's clearly, that's been a period of time for sure. Like if you look over the last decade, and for whatever reason, like Anthropic aren't quite in that place, and that's making it harder for them to operate in the current sort of political structures, right?
Yeah, and it's also a very weird precedent in the sense where we saw, and this usually happens when some sort of narrative breaks out of its native space, in this case the tech space, and goes a little bit more global, where celebrities will start to jump in and essentially like align themselves with the political leaning of like either side of that argument. And in this case, it's kind of like Anthropic is maybe viewed upon as like a more liberal stance, and OpenAI the counter of that. We saw Katy Perry cancel her OpenAI subscription and then buy a Claude Pro Max subscription. And she wasn't just buying a Claude Pro Max subscription. She was essentially tweeting out like, "I don't stand with the government's decision here." And is that dangerous? Like, is that is this? What I feel like there are probably negative knock-on effects from this happening.
And like so, I think in truth, like that's just how certainly you look at American culture is now, right? Like as in people choose their brand of beer based on what what their political views are. There's almost an entire cottage industry of essentially, I don't know if you've noticed this in recent years, but of manufacturing essentially mass market consumer goods, but with basically big words on it saying like, we are not woke, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, so and they all market through like certain channels to certain people and it's targeted in certain ways. And clearly like there's some commercial value in it for those set of people and vice versa for everyone else in signaling. And I think that, we can kind of go down an avenue of like the extent to which it's healthy for a society to view themselves so deeply through the prism of politics and whether or not that's, appropriate or not for in the long run and what the impact of that will be. But for better or worse, that is currently where we are, right? That is currently where we are, where not only will Katy Perry go out and tweet that, but actually that, she'll do so and then it'll get loads of engagement and people will be like, oh yeah, it's like I said, it's like supporting a football team, right? Do you know what I mean? And it's actually it's like
fragile, right?
As it turns out, like I don't judge my, my sort of model quality based on which like political, you know what I mean? But some people will, right? And I think you can't control that. That is the world that we're in. And I think actually in some ways, and this is obviously I spend all my day kind of thinking about politics and the impact of geopolitics on this stuff. It's like at some level it's healthy to at least acknowledge that is what we're doing. Whereas I think for a long time, and to go back to the kind of European perspective on it, I think for a long time we weren't sort of that existed as de facto state and we weren't acknowledging that. Whereas now I think there's a much more awareness of whether or not it's right or wrong and the right balance we've got to strike on things like sovereignty and all these really big questions. An awareness that the current state and the way in which we operate is not neutral is really important. You have to kind of start from that place of being aware of where you are.
Yeah.
Conscious that we're on ETN, we should talk about the spring statement. I think it's
I'm delighted to. This is
firstly, I guess takes like it's like she's kind of trying to stay true to kind of stability. We can kind of talk about growth and how that we haven't met up to what we wanted for kind of growth. But yeah, I guess first off, what are your takes?
Yeah, so I mean, look, we're realistically. I got a really funny text from someone from Treasury yesterday. So I was, obviously we check in fairly consistently, and I texted to check we don't expect anything crazy, or frankly anything that's going to be really important. And they were like, no, you're good. So I actually, what it is a fairly and intentionally like relatively dry fiscal update.
Yeah, fairly boring, right? Yeah.
And that's what they want, right? Ultimately, and I think to some extent, again, almost back to the conversation we were having before, the risk with these things is that every political event becomes like cinema, right? And it's like, and it's just like, oh, we just need a new chapter to the story. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and one of the problems I think in politics is that everything gets covered like it's a horse race or like it's, the Daily Mail sidebar or whatever, and it's all about who's up and who's down. And actually, like, what's happening is like the government has a plan, whatever you think of that, right or wrong, like they're going to be delivering it over a period of time. It turns out that every so often, like, fiscal forecasts are published and then you have to read them out. And so I think that's the basic plan, and the extent to which that, that is materially changed today, just from yesterday, like not really. And that's probably fine if you're going to have a long-term vision for an economy. And the challenge is like whether the long-term vision for the economy is the right one or not. Obviously, we have our views on that and what we think more could be done on, and what less could be done on. But yeah, I think that's what we can expect today is a fairly dry but relatively important for a set of people updates.
Yeah, I agree. And let's touch on growth. So GDP forecasts, they were down around 0.9% down from the earlier estimates of 1.2%. What are your thoughts? What do you feel like the government needs to do more of and less of, as you mentioned?
Yeah, so I mean, again, I always think these updates are always really tricky because I don't think they're ever right. It's the first thing. Like, 5-year forecasting economics is so difficult. As everyone knows. And so, yeah, it always moves up and down a little bit. And I think, who knows, right? I think what I would say is, like, do we feel like we're on the right track? And I would separate out two different things. I think the big picture for the UK, I think it's fair to say if you talk to anyone, it doesn't feel like it's like going great. Like at the same time, like, you guys are on the phone every week with founders, and like people feel like in the ecosystem, we're pretty bullish. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. The big thing that we're focused on at the moment at the Startup Coalition is this the consultation closed on Saturday, but this big consultation the Treasury is doing around the tax environment for entrepreneurship in the UK. So one of the big challenges is how do we ensure that we're able to keep the best, most talented founders here and build an environment for them to build in, and they don't flee to, Dubai or whatever for 0% cap gains, although that seems a little bit less likely this week. But they sort of, we're incentivizing people to stay and build here and create jobs here and create companies here. And so we've got a whole bunch of stuff on that we're publishing this week off the back of that consultation. But that's really where, in our mind, the energy is there are probably between 5,000 and 10,000 people in the UK that will have a kind of GDP level impact on the economy, real outsized impact because they're building these amazing businesses. And how do we ensure that we keep those people and find the next 5,000 and ensure they have the capital and talent to succeed? So, as long as that's where we're focusing our efforts, some of those big macro questions like, are we going far enough on deregulation? Are we going far enough on planning reform? Are we pushing, too much of the tax burden onto businesses? All that stuff matters for sure, and we care about it. But to some extent, like when you're working on technology policy or you're working in our little part of the world, like that's kind of above your head a little bit. And you can't control the weather. All you can do is try and deliver on the things that you care about.
Yeah, it's interesting. There was a, I think he was from A6Z. Yes, Alex Immerman article. He said it was like titled "AI will eat application software," but something I found really interesting within that was like the consolidation of like thin wrappers, and ultimately be like just AI generally will be like a massive catalyst for growth in the software industry, just for companies like delivering genuine value. And so you kind of see this like concentration of people and money and opportunity kind of going into fewer and fewer companies, but that opportunity is just growing larger, right? And it's the kind of same thing in within the UK where, you want to keep those finite amount of people that are genuinely changing GDP in the country. That's the main thing. Would that be a focus over the kind of the rest of us type thing, or would it be how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I don't think it's either or. I think in truth, like you can have very narrowly targeted policy. So big picture, one of the big things that's changed in the way in which people think about growing businesses in the past, traditionally, you would have had, the real kind of titans of industry would have had massive capital investments in the way in which they build their business. You think of the Industrial Revolution, like I'm from the north of England, and you can go to Saltaire, not far where I'm from, and A, it's a beautiful place and you should definitely visit. But B, you've got these incredible kind of, they're factories, right? As in, it's like they're like physical places where these things were built. For the most part, the big change in technology is that you have a much more kind of nimble and flexible way of operating. And as founders always say to me, their businesses are people with laptops for the most part, right? And where they then do that work and what that means becomes something very different. At the same time, in the UK, we've had this situation where a lot of our most successful founders are from overseas, right? It's moved to the UK because it was the best environment to build. And so the best environment, and that really matters. Now, that doesn't mean that screw everyone else, quite the opposite. The point is that actually technology diffusion and having an effective economy that is leveraging technology most effectively will lift, the rising tide of that will lift all boats. And the kind of these people will build will generate the high value jobs of the future. And so it's about kind of creating that environment, acknowledging that set of people are much more flighty and will move around, and you have to create an environment that encourages them to stay in the UK and build in the UK. But then them doing so will generate a lot of those outputs and the things that add other value.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. We're out of time.
Fresh out of time. Dom, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. We love hanging out.
Yeah, I was going to say, don't screw me on the profile pic next time. I appreciate it. Excellent.
Mate, you're a legend. Cheers. Ciao.
Hilarious stuff.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Next on the show, we have Oliver, George, and Art. They have just... Oh, nice.
Ooh, that was loud.
That's so loud.
Incredibly loud.
They just won 2 AI Lab hackathons within 2 months, XAI and Mistral.
Let's go.
We're just waiting to get them on the stream.
Our producer is cooking up.
Guys, can you hear and see us?
You can. Okay,
awesome.
Amazing. That's great news. Before we jump into this, I just want to tell you about Framer. Framer, build better sites faster. It's the all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. We migrated ETN to Framer ourselves seamlessly. You can too at framer.com/ETN.
Boom. Ola, how's it going?
We're just checking. We are ready in a couple secs.
Guys, okay, we're live. How's it going?
Live on ETN. What's going on, guys?
What's up?
So
Hey,
good
what's going
to
on?
have you. Congrats, a huge congrats. We'll do a manual clap. It's the highest honor on the show, a manual clap. Where do we even start?
Which one was first, the Mistral one or the XAI one?
The two.
XAI was first, so that was last month, and then Mistral was this weekend. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
And Mistral is the one that your post kind of went pretty trending, and it was a multiverse that you guys had constructed.
Correct. Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
Mistral
Should we
verse.
tell you about the project, or do you want to hear about it?
Yeah, please break it down for us.
All right. Yeah. So we started out, we had 30 hours. We started out with just we wanted to build lovable for buildings. We built that in an hour. So we had 29 left. And from there, it went kind of crazy. We got feature creep. We added agents that could build the buildings. And then we added driving cars, and you could fly planes. And all of a sudden, we just kind of had civilization going. We ended up adding an economy after a while, and we just watched it go pretty crazy. You see the agents electing each other as a mayor, and these kind of dystopian things started happening. So it started out as lovable for buildings, and then it just kind of developed from there. It was a super fun project.
How do you start an economy? How does that work?
How did the agents start appointing mayors?
It's a good question. You want to take it? Or?
Yeah, the economy was. We kind of thought, okay, let's give them some money and they can trade amongst each other. And you literally just get 50 agents and let them talk to each other, and they can just kind of spend money how they want. It didn't go well. We kind of gave them money and they instantly went bankrupt. So we really had to really help them out. And we had to every time they went bankrupt, they'd vote in a new mayor. And there was a lot of kind of, don't let AI run a society. I think that was one takeaway from the whole economy point of view.
Yeah, but it was a fun thing because you see it kind of develop into this model eval, right? Where different models handle the economy differently. But overall, like George said, they suck at running economies. So I don't think we're there just yet.
So when was so you built the whole thing in an hour, and then just over the other 29 hours, you were just kind of shipping these things. And at what point were they starting to create their own economy and everything else in between? Like what point was that? And then you were just watching it, I presume.
It started off as a Mapbox 3JS kind of plug-in add-on. So we had that done in an hour, and then it was only until we started adding agents we started realizing, okay, like this is actually going to be its own.
Yeah. I mean, we started building, I'd say like 11 a.m. on the Saturday there, and I'd say about 9 p.m. on the Saturday, the feature creep had gone so far. We were watching it happen, and so we let it run overnight, and we woke up to all these buildings coming up, which was pretty cool. It's really just like agents tool calling other agents. So like one agent can build a building, and so you see these like basically society happening, which was a pretty cool project to pitch.
That's nothing.
I think the one thing.
Yeah, sorry, go on. No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think one thing that's pretty cool is we were saying how multiple agents can like run economies differently. One thing they all had in common, when you give them loads of money and you go build what you want, make your society, they just love making casinos. They just like.
No way. Well, as in all the model, like
how they
all of them were making
concept of a
casinos.
casino? I don't know.
They just go, let's make more luxury casinos. You put them end game and you say, what do you want to do? And they're just like, right, well, it's pretty obvious.
They couldn't gamble either. This was just what they saw as like a successful society looked like.
And this was just this is a society rampant with casinos and skyscrapers, basically.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, it was that. And then weirdly, some of the models loved like medieval buildings. And so you'd have casinos and then like an old tavern. And that was just kind of the vibe.
That's so cool.
That's sick. This sounds awesome. I'm trying to think like what, in my mind, it's kind of like Grok would be the casino builder. And then like maybe Anthropic would be building like the old school townhouses, maybe a little bit. I'm trying to work out like, but you're saying they were all just building casinos.
They love
Most of them were. Yeah.
That's so good.
That's so wild.
Is it running now, or did you shut it off? How does surely it's kind of sad. Like, I want to see where this goes.
Well, it's still running. We had to turn it down a little bit because we were burning insane amounts of money.
Yeah.
So we slowed it down. We come out and we're just like, oh no, we go to sleep for a few hours and we come back. We're like, oh, we burnt hundreds overnight. So we're like, okay, we'll ramp it down a little bit, but it's still live.
No way.
And people can like join with X, they can auth, and then they can like claim a plot, and you can play like alongside the agents.
And like in my mind, I'd start getting like emotionally attached to the world that I've built, and I wouldn't want to turn it off because then what happens if you turn it off?
It's a good question. Like, it'd be nice to keep it on, but the thing about it is if we got like 50, 100 agents running in parallel, and every single decision they make, every like message they send to each other, every building they build is a shit ton of tokens. And so if that's going 24/7, we're racking up a pretty big API bill. So thankfully over the weekend we had AWS Bedrock like subsidizing all of the expenses, but the hackathon's done now, so it's coming out of our pocket if we keep it running for too long.
Okay, yeah. Like, all of a sudden, I wouldn't be as emotionally attached.
Would there be
It's cost me all that money.
Would there be a thing where you can like can you monetize something like this? I don't know. Like
you can sell plots.
Can you run ads? Yeah, you can sell plots. You can run ads on those plots if people are if it's blowing up on X kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of like
about it.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. It was kind of inspired by the Levels.io.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
That was sick.
Which that was kind of inspo, and we thought about it, but the cost of actually getting the 3JS buildings to look good is pretty significant. The way we use image models to generate all of like the plans, and then it goes into this iterative spiral of like, okay, build 3JS, take screenshots of 3JS, compare it to the like screenshots of the image made, and then just iterate upon that. And for like a good building, it ends up costing like I think it's like £1.
Yeah, something like that. Like you could monetize it, but like the difference between this software and like traditional software is that this actually has marginal cost. So you build a website, it doesn't cost any more to sell it to more users, but this actually, there is a marginal cost for every user we add. There is a shit ton more tokens to generate. So we could monetize it, but I'm curious how much money someone would give to play this, because it would be a bit expensive for the unit economics.
Any labs want to sponsor it, let us know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is a good time to call out. Maybe we
surely Mr. R, let's
we can clip this up and hopefully get their attention. So the day itself, can you maybe just walk? I've never seen a hackathon. I'm not sure we've spoken to people who've
we're not technical. We don't go to hackathons. But we talk to people that do.
What does the day look like? You guys just rock up and then you're all just coding like locked up in a room kind of thing, or what's the?
Yeah, sure. I mean, me and George came down from Manchester, so we got up at about 5 a.m. We took the train down. We got to London. Hackathon starts at 9. You sign up, you get some merch. They go through the different challenges and tracks you can do, and then you're basically off building. And so you build, for this one was about 30 hours of build time, which is pretty long for a hackathon. Like we hosted a hackathon up here in Manchester in November. That was only 6 hours, which also works. You get food. Some people stay overnight. We went to this pod hotel to get some sleep before coming back to ship more. Yeah, so there's different levels of intensity, but it really is just rock up and then you build for 30 hours. Gets a bit sweaty in there, but it's fun.
Okay. So, and tell me what you guys I don't know if you guys work together. Tell me what you guys are building outside of hackathons, because I imagine, the world is literally
what happens
your oyster.
now?
You can kind of do whatever you like, right? With
Yeah, I mean, you and I can probably start.
Yeah, so Art and I, we've bootstrapped a few businesses in our time. We run a few like weird, quirky businesses that basically no one's heard of. So we run like the largest vintage accounting software in Europe. So all the people selling secondhand clothes, that's like what we do. We built like sniping tools as stuff. We have like all these kind of funny side businesses. Right now, we've been shipping for the past few months a Shopify, but for software. So making it really easy for people to you've built something in Claude code, you want to go and sell it, deploy it, have auth, login, and like A/B tests, that sort of stuff, just packaged up really fast. That's what we've been working on at the moment, but we're still kind of working in silence.
Yeah,
in the background.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah,
and then
I run
sorry, go on.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I run a startup accelerator in Manchester, which is where I met George. So I'm mainly working on that right now, but always shipping side projects as well.
Mm-hmm. Let's go. And have you guys got, if following this? I mean, we reached out because we thought it was really cool. But is there like any kind of clout you get from the win? Like, do people notice it? Do the followers tick up? Do you get any inbounds from other like enterprise companies?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even have a company that can be invested in, but I've got like maybe 10 VCs reach out over the past 24 hours.
They're VCs.
So you do get a lot of clout and inbound. It's the same thing with the XAI hackathon when we won that one. Is there's a lot of things that happen on Twitter, especially where you get a lot of clout.
Elon responded to that one, so the XAI win was like a different level.
Yeah,
of
no way.
Yeah, that one was huge.
Let's hear about that. What happened with that?
That we built a Grok for Mayor for that one. So it was, we collected all of like London data sources. There's loads of APIs. It's actually really good. There's loads of data transparency.
Yeah.
So we turned all of those into MCP servers, which you could like talk all, and then we just gave it to Grok and basically just ran it constantly going, find interesting stuff. And then we connected it with like video gen, image gen, and we said like 11 Labs, make a campaign video and then post about it on X. So it did that. And it went absolutely insane. We managed to win that, and we get to go to SpaceX soon.
Yeah, so the winning prize was watch a Starship launch at Starbase in the lounge there. So hopefully sometime in March we're going to Texas, which would be pretty cool. So we're excited about that.
But yeah, X went insane on that one.
That is so awesome.
Yeah,
Wait, how
cool.
like did the XAI team reach out to you and tell you like, hey, yeah,
that
we're
was
gonna
the
go?
prize. That was the prize.
Oh, that's the prize. Okay.
That was the prize, yeah. But then you also get like people from talent acquisition on these companies reaching out as well. So hackathons are actually a good way to get jobs if anyone's looking for a dev job. Go to a hackathon.
If you can win.
If you can win, you got to win.
You can beat it.
That's so crazy. We're coming up towards the end of the interview as well. I want to ask. Like, you've got one more.
I was going to say, are you guys going to another hackathon? What's the next one? Are you going to try and do three for three?
I mean, I feel like we got to tick off all the labs, right? So if Anthropic or OpenAI does, we're going to be at those for sure.
100%.
We don't have one dialed in just yet, but we're ready.
Let's
Okay,
go.
nice.
We love that.
Yeah,
Warrior mentality.
when you do 3 for 3, come on the show.
Yeah,
and
come back. You have to win though. You got to win.
Open up the economy and the mayors and all of that kind of stuff, and build another multiverse or whatever it's called. And
get some podcast studios in there
Yeah.
as well. We can like agentically report from within your multiverse. That'd be pretty cool.
I like it.
Where can we? Is there anywhere that we can send people, like any pages, any profiles that you want to push anyone to, like a free shill, if you will?
I guess follow us all on X is a good start. Maybe you want to shout out Dan.
Yeah, shout out Dan, by the way. You guys had him on earlier. Not like a few weeks ago, maybe. YC AI Daniil. He gave us
Daniil. He's such a beast. How do you know AI Daniil?
We interned with him over summer, and he gave us a shout out. So we wanted to return the favor.
Oh, what a gangster! Yeah, he's really cool. We just saw Paul Graham signed his Mac Mini, which is dope.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Congrats again as well. Really cool. We'd love to stay up to date with what you're doing, and keep smashing it.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Appreciate it,
much.
guys.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Gav. See you
Ciao.
soon.
Cheers, guys.
Appreciate
Bye.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Before we have the next person on the show, leave our digital business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business. Multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com.
We are welcoming in Rob Desbres, general partner at Seraphim Space. I think congratulations are also in order as well for the recent news on your end, Rob. But we're just seeing if we can bring you into the studio. You are live on ETN. Welcome, Rob, to the show. 100 million fundraise specifically for space, which I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask about. But firstly, congratulations on the raise. How was the process? How was the appetite to fund something like this?
Thank you, and fantastic to be invited to do this interview today, and really bring to life why we're so excited about space. And in terms of the recent fundraise, well, it's very much focused on early stage opportunities. It has taken, to be honest, about 18 months, 2 years to raise that sum of money, which I think evidences where the fundraising market is today. But from our perspective, people are really buying into the space opportunity, and space is now very much perceived as dual-use technology. So we have very strong defensive tailwinds, but really catalyzed our fundraising over the last year. So we've already made 17 investments out of that fund. That's 17 across the US, Europe, and the UK as well. But that builds out our overall portfolio now. So we've supported and invested into 149 companies across 33 countries. And in terms of our total AUM, we're now $550 million across our listed fund and our venture fund as well.
You love to see it. Congratulations, guys. It's awesome to hear, and especially for such what is becoming an ever increasingly more important area to see this cash flow into. Just sort of getting started, I'd love to ask quickly about the Seraphim, the space index. From the research we did, it kind of looked like this was a kind of like a health check on the industry. Like, is there cash flowing into it? Can you maybe just tell us a bit more about what that Seraphim Space Index is?
Absolutely. So we launched the world's first venture capital fund focused on space in 2016. And we very much saw our role as being market makers. And if you're going to be a market maker, you've got to be on top of the data. So we've always been led by that primary research into the market, understanding how much capital is being deployed, where it's being deployed, what businesses it's being deployed into, what are the trends, both from a tech and a geographic perspective as well. And when we started out, $1 billion a year was being invested in 2016, 2017. Last year, 12.4 billion was invested. So over that 10-year time period, we've seen a 12x increase in the amount of capital. And space is outpacing the general VC investment market at the moment. So we've had 10 quarters of consistent growth in the deployment in space, whereas the main market has pretty much plateaued during that period since the highs of 2021. So outside of AI, it's probably one of the fastest growing areas for investment at the moment. And we think that's because space is addressing some very real problems that exist today, and we're starting to see those solutions coming on stream. The early investments were into that kind of core infrastructure. Now we're seeing that movement into some optimization of the space infrastructure we've got, and also increasingly into AI opportunities to really bring real insight from that data that's being produced in space as well. Undoubtedly, there's been two key tailwinds there. So originally, sustainability, climate change, and then more recently, over the last 18 months, it's been very much driven by defense and the need to solve the defense deficit from a capability perspective. And backing those companies that were built for the commercial market, but are now pivoting into the significant defense opportunities as well. So we've seen more capital in the last 4 years coming into space than the rest of history put together. So it's a really exciting time to be in space. But it's not just the capital. Ultimately, the influx of capital only lasts for so long. You have to demonstrate that the business model of space is working and people are getting returns. And we're already seeing a very healthy IPO market. And we fully returned our first venture fund in 5 years as well. So evidencing that investors can really make returns right now.
Let's go. You love to see that. You mentioned the IPO market as well. But we've spoke about it a lot on the show. Like we've all seen the SpaceX. I want to say rumors. They're not really rumors. Like everyone knows about it now, and also it's probably quite strategic. What does this do for the industry? Right, like people are saying that it's the largest IPO ever. People are saying it's going to suck up a lot of capital, but I would imagine it puts a positive stamp on the industry as a whole, right?
It puts a hugely positive stamp on it. So most of the market commentators, so the investment banks, were charting that the space industry would hit circa 1.8 trillion by 2035. Now you've got one company that's going to hit 1.5 trillion this year alone. So I think it brings all of those, those kind of data points in the industry massively forward and undersells the size of the opportunity. And today, the industry by itself was 650 billion last year, which was twice the size of the AI industry last year. And that's because space has been around for a long time, since the late 50s, and it's existing infrastructure that we're supporting, but just building that out right now. What excites me about the IPO is suddenly there's going to be a huge number of vested, high velocity entrepreneurs coming out of SpaceX who are going to be that next wave of pioneering entrepreneurs that are really going to establish space over the next multiple generations and really build that $1 trillion economy we're going to see relatively soon.
That's yeah. Wow.
I wanted to ask, because it's obviously, as you mentioned, a fairly legacy industry, and so much data has been built within the industry. There must be obviously a lot of opportunity in a kind of horizontal sense, but I wanted to understand what the kind of main thing and opportunity you guys are looking for within the space industry. What's that, what's that core problem that you guys feel like is the thing that needs to be solved within space, or is that just so horizontal? There's just so much opportunity pretty much everywhere you look.
I think you've absolutely hit it there. It's a horizontal play, space, and there is no industry that space isn't going to impact over the coming years. And it's really interesting that our last two investments are actually space biotech companies. So that shows you how quickly this whole industry is evolving. And what we're starting to see is those bottlenecks falling away, but is helping the whole industry evolve. So initially we had to solve for access to space, the cost of launch. We have to a degree solved for that. And certainly by the time that Starship comes online, when it's falling down to less than $100 per kilo, but if we go back to the 80s and a shuttle program, it was $80,000 per kilo. So we're solving for that. Private sector space stations will be on stream by the end of this decade. And we're starting to also look at downmass capability as well. And some of the private sector companies are starting to actually deliver on that aspect as well. So we can have regular return cycles. That enables these new industries from, manufacturing of semiconductors to doing pharmaceuticals and space to start to come on stream. But we very much saw when we launched the fund, going back to 2015, 2016, we were trying to understand what are going to be those next multi-generational, multi-trillion-dollar trends. What is going to be analogous to doing a software fund in the 80s or an internet fund in the 90s? And we decided it was ultimately going to be space. And space is enabling us to address some of society's biggest challenges, from climate change to global security, ubiquitous connectivity. And if you're building a space business, by definition, you're building a venture scale business. That's what's really exciting from our perspective.
I just want to go back to a question an answer you just had, where like the thing you're most excited about, well, one of the things that you're most excited about the SpaceX IPO is not really just, the moment of the IPO. It's the shares that vest from the internal employees, and then their ability to go out and kind of, it's almost like a redistribution of elite level talent in the industry, right? They're going to go out and they're going to start building their own startups. But I had a question down here. Like, do you think that the SpaceX IPO will do will have a positive impact on space startups valuations? Is this going to see, multiple, like we've had Icarus Robotics on the show, who they two really young guys. They were trying to decrease the cost of labor in space. I'm not sure, I'm now thinking if they were to start that company post SpaceX IPO, they could probably raise a lot more at a much higher valuation. Like, do you think that we're going to see a trickle down effect from this IPO for these smaller startups?
I think we will see a trickle down effect in terms of appetite and interest. I think we've seen a huge amount of money coming in at the earlier stages. The challenge has really been around that scale up stage, and we haven't really seen that being solved for outside of the US market until more recently in Europe. So it's really that transition from the A stage through to the B when you're looking at quite significant checks at that stage. And the challenge there is that it's still seed investors who are making those investments, but are suddenly looking at the financial risk of being on the hook for to support that 50 million Series A, Series B round, and not having the capital to do it. And then the traditional scale-up investors not understanding what good looks like and what the different milestones are. You can't look at customer growth, customer acquisition, revenues. That just doesn't exist within most space plays at that stage. So I think what the SpaceX IPO will do is encourage the later stage capital allocators start taking space seriously to build a space investment thesis and strategy. We've seen that a little bit over the years, particularly with the sovereign wealth funds, but we need more of that. We need that flywheel effect, and we need that healthy IPO market to come through as well. And I think also a lot of people who invested into SpaceX over the last 10 years, they're now going to have liquidity as well to go back into the market too. So overall, I think it's going to be hugely healthy for the market. We've now backed, I think, 6 ex-SpaceX employees. We've backed a couple of Blue Origin ones. We're also starting to see in Europe some of Europe's leading space companies who've now hit unicorn status. We're seeing people leave those companies and go into the market with their own startups as well. So that's super exciting. And I think taking a step back, what excites me about this industry is that coming out of universities post-PhD, the talent does not want to go and join the traditional primes. They don't want to join the Airbus, the BAE. They want to go and do their own startups, or they want to do a few years, understand what good looks like, understand what working in a high velocity startup looks like, and then going to take their tech they did at PhD level to go and change the world. So it's a fascinating time to be involved in this industry.
And that's super interesting. And just touching on Europe then, and the later stage capital we've had, a lot of people talking about specifically software, so less about space within later stage capital, and the kind of problems that Europe has with keeping companies in Europe and funding them to be able to do that instead of kind of going to look at the US. Is that a similar problem within the space industry, more kind of specifically, as you were kind of talking about, is that a big problem? And do you feel that a lot of the US capital is now looking to fund like later stage deals within Europe?
So I think it traditionally has been a challenge within Europe, probably until about 12, 18 months ago, where that started to change. I think we just haven't had deep tech investors who can lead, 50 million plus round. That's always been a challenge. We have seen the European Investment Fund has pushed a lot of capital into the market for space-focused funds, looking traditionally at sort of seed, Series A level. So we've seen companies raising quite a lot, but then being challenged when they're looking to raise the 50 to 100 million kind of round. And to put that into context, if you're building a satellite constellation, you're probably going to be needing to raise between 300 and 500 million to get to a point of consistent revenues and really market dominance at that point. The US investors have been actively looking in Europe for some time, but they do want a US strategy. And I think where we are is still the US is the single biggest market and customer for their products. And in the main, from a space perspective, that is now the US Department of Defense. That has its own challenges from a budget perspective under the current administration, but it is a real driver to VC funding going in. What's probably changed over literally the last year is post the Trump-Zelensky meeting is that ultimately NATO and Europe recognizing it's going to have to step up. It's going to have to address the defense deficit. That's why we're seeing the massive stimulus packages coming into the market in Europe, an additional 800 billion coming into the market for defense, and space is a big part of that conversation. So I think now we're seeing that there is a very big market opportunity here. We will see more capital allocators start to look at the bigger opportunities. We're going to see the corporates, I think, stepping up significantly, and then also the sovereign wealth funds for different individual countries as well. We've got one big fund out there, and the NATO Innovation Fund, which is $1 billion fund, and space is a big part of what they're looking at. And I think we will now see, in the past, we might well have been of the disposition that unless you had a US strategy, you weren't going to be a venture scale opportunity. But now we are starting to see European focused companies who we think can become venture scale because of the size of the market opportunity in Europe.
Yeah. It seems to be like a trending topic. The not just, well, something that we've covered on the show before is the this sort of push towards sovereignty within tech, mainly within not necessarily software, but I guess it's good to hear that that does also extend to space, and it's kind of like a reactionary process over the last 3 years, and what's basically just sort of unearthed the fact that we need more money going into sovereign technology, which is a great thing. We're just coming up towards the end of it. Well, we're 1 minute over. Bit of a fun one just for the end. I have to ask, like, data centers in space, is this like a thing that can actually work? Are people trying it? Have you seen anything on it? Like, what do you think?
So I think the market pull is huge. I think we've just got such significant energy problems terrestrially. We need to look at other places to generate that energy to meet the energy demands. But if we look at where space is today, we're charting a path to space producing 300 petabytes of data on a daily basis by 2032. Facebook in its entirety today is only 235 petabytes. So that's a whole, Meta stroke Facebook every single day being produced in space. So is there a better place for processing that? Probably space is a better place to process it because it's not all worthwhile than bringing it back down. But also just actually having an infinite source of energy in space in terms of having the sun there consistently 24/7 is something we should work towards, taking some of these dirty industries off Earth and into space. But there are challenges. There are physics challenges there in terms of the amount of infrastructure you need to remove the heat so you can effectively process it. But they're not insurmountable. I think economics are still challenging around getting that much mass into space. But we're probably not going to, I think there'll be limited numbers of people just building large data centers. I think that's going to be more of a preserve of SpaceX, Blue Origin, probably Relativity Space and Eric Schmidt as well. I think we're going to see more distributed processing, so constellations of processing capability in space. I think that's probably going to be the next step before we just see ubiquitous space data centers in space.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. Well, sounds like things are trending in the right direction. Anyway, Rob, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a pleasure. We're 3 minutes over, but we will welcome back anytime. We've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thanks, and I've enjoyed it too. Would love to come back. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Cheers, Rob. Thanks. Have a great day.
To meet you.
Nice one.
Awesome stuff.
Damn, that's a crazy stat on the Meta, like data consumption.
Yeah, that is wild. Framer, build better sites faster. The all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. We need to learn this.
Getting shaky on
no
the
handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. We migrated ETN to Framer ourselves, and it was easy. Go to framer.com/ETN to go and do your stuff.
You can do it too.
We have Andrea at Thrad on, but we've got a few minutes before that's going to happen. Let's dive into the town square.
Let's do it. Let's check out some tweets. I saw a good one the other day. So this is interesting. Let's pull this one up. I wanted to. So this is Jay. I think he's over at BrowserBase. That's BrowserBase logo, right? Yeah. GTM is no longer a sales problem. It's an engineering one. 97.2K views. I wholeheartedly agree. Like when has any startup been like, oh, we need to sell more of this product. Let's go hire a sales person to call. Like now.
Yeah, now.
Obviously in the past, but like that's just not happening.
Quite a lot, actually.
A load of them, like thousands at Salesforce.
Basically everybody.
But this is I think this has gone viral because he's touching on a shift that is, I think it's kind of already happened, to be honest. Like Clay sort of
changing the game.
Yeah, with the whole GTM engineer thing. But now it's like any sort of startup that you have, it's not, you don't want someone to come in and like directly sell your product.
Obviously it depends what company you're building, but yes, software company, yes.
Software, AI.
Agree. And like just GTM engineering is the game if you're not kind of leveraging, tools and AI and whatever to help you do that. I think it's very silly. I feel like so when we have Nick at Attio on the show, he always, we ask him about hiring and stuff. And the last time he came on the show, he mentioned, all of every single person that he hires is building on, it's just building on Claude.
Yeah,
like,
he said that their GTM team was building in terms of who's building the most code in terms of a department, it was engineering, and then it was GTM.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Yeah.
Jay Sanon, bang on the money over there at BrowserBase. Shout out to BrowserBase as well. We worked really closely with a couple guys over there when I was at Convergence.
Shout out.
Yeah, those guys are killing it.
I want to touch on Leclerc's wedding. This is a little bit different, but
Leclerc's wedding.
Yeah, go to.
Oh, I've seen this video.
This is dope. If we put this up and listen to it or watch it. Can you get out? Yeah. Taking your time there, buddy.
Yeah, this is, sorry, just...
You got to listen,
I got to listen to it as well, do you?
Oh, no, I thought there was music. Maybe not.
There we go, we're listening to it, and it is just wind in my ear. Riveting stuff.
Real good
one.
He's living his best life. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm now insanely jealous that he gets to drive around in that car.
Yeah, very cool. Very fun indeed.
Let me. I want to pull up the. How long do we have till our next guest? We good? Yeah. I want to pull up the intercom story that Owen put out yesterday. This was just such a crazy read, and we've had Des on the show, we've had Adam on the show. And a lot of what we spoke to with them comes through in this article as well. So we can just share this. But this is Owen, I think it's Makabe. I think that's how you pronounce it, Makabe.
I think it's McCabe.
McCabe?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with McCabe. Over Intercom, this is basically the write-up of the famous Intercom story around the company pivot. We've had Des Traynor on the show. A quote that stuck with me from our conversation with Des was, "You either like correct your company or the market will correct it for you."
Yeah,
and it was something that
he said directly on. Yeah, did you say that? He said directly on the show.
Yeah, I just said that.
Sorry.
But it's something that Adam spoke to. It's something that Owen is speaking to here, and it's something that Des spoke to as well. That they were all prepared to lose everything, in order to turn this thing around. And Owen does a really cool job of giving a perspective from his end, where he steps back in as CEO after taking some time out, and it was almost like just a course correction. Let's just steer the ship, and they had to cut like massive revenue lines up to like 60 million, I think he mentions in here. But the biggest thing one of the biggest things around this was also like, yes, this is a tough thing to do, and like this is going to be physically hard and logistically hard to actually, manage to like turn this ship around or like recreate the business, if you will. But also like there's an emotional level as well, where if a prior CEO, let's say like has been in the seat for a while, he mentions that being the new CEO coming in was actually an advantage because there wasn't an ego you had to battle with from previously. Like there wasn't
Yeah,
someone like, well, you know, I've kind of built this, so it's
We
mine.
haven't
So
experienced.
maybe there's like a confirmation bias there, or like just a natural bias towards what one individual has built. But just to sort of like go off a few of the top bits.
But those are good. If you just go onto the like the X thing, it's like a, you know.
So I want to read his words. I want to read the words from the thing. So he goes, 3 years ago, our future was looking pretty bleak. I jumped back into the CEO role after a 2-year hiatus while sick, when we were heading quickly towards negative growth. All SaaS growth rates fell as the ZERP days waned, and ours fell extra hard due to an unfocused business strategy that led to poor product market fit. A month later, ChatGPT was announced, and we all began our collective, gradual, and still ongoing journey to try and understand what it all means. I'll give you the simplified meme version of the story first. Step 1, AI. Step 2, question marks. Step 3, profit. Because I'll be explaining the how shortly thereafter. But in summary, we launched our new service, Fin, in the summer of 2023, and our business began to violently recover. And everyone knows the story about the turnaround. Like, they basically cannibalized their own business. They shut down loads of revenue lines. They introduced Fin, which is their AI customer service agent. And that started to just put up absolute numbers. And today it's like doing over 100 million. They go, we're now at 400 million ARR overall, with Fin about to press 100 million. And just like an insane chart here where he marks on like the CEO change point and also the Fin launch. Like that Fin launch is literally like completely in line with just this vertical line. But one of the craziest parts of the article was basically the call out at the end, where he mentions to my peers in software, this S word is insanely hard, and if it's not hard, it's unlikely you're doing it right. The shift from an on-prem to cloud wrecked many companies, but the change was not nearly as fast. And while it proved quite difficult for the previous generation to adapt quickly enough to keep up with my own, the shift in approach, skill set, go-to-market, and more was not nearly as dramatic. But still, this shift is possible. Little old left for dead 15-year-old Intercom did it. You can do it too. You have the brand, the customer base, the cash flows, and the access to debt, and you have the workflow tools that can be adapted for their new future for use alongside your agents too. Most of you have started moving towards this world already. A few of the bits about being AI upheld, which is funny, but then the ending quote, as someone who's been grinding alongside you for decades in this industry, I know how scary this time is. I want you to survive and win. All it will take is destroying everything you love. Good luck.
Boom.
Boom.
I think what's most mad is that they were 15 years old at that point, and you know, companies pivot kind of all the time with when they're trying to find PMF and they're super early, and the first idea is never the thing that works. But the fact that they were 15 years old, they had something that genuinely worked. They killed $60 million in like original ARR to do this. Like imagine looking at a thing that's like, we're literally at PMF, but we know that the market is going to correct that.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't know that, but like they made the bet. Yeah, they made the bet that it would, and well, yeah, they were right, and that's what you get for being right and acting kind of on it.
Of course, it's kind of like a message to the industry, like, hey, yes, obviously
Such
this
a
is
perfect
scary.
time to release the article as well.
Yeah, literally. It's like, hey, this is scary, but you know, it can be done, and it reminds me of the conversation that we had with Nicola at PolyAI when he came on, where he was saying that the businesses of the past, the sort of sexy software companies that aren't the sexy software companies anymore, they're struggling to keep up. Well, there are two sets. Like some companies just can't pivot and they will die, and that's fine. Some companies can pivot, but what they need to understand is they have to be able to position themselves in a way to capture the new agentic TAM. And if they don't, they'll just become infrastructure from previous like legacy software that is no longer like able to trade at sexy revenue multiples or forward PE ratios, because they aren't. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to capture the new agentic layer and like that, all of that extra TAM as well. But it can be done. And here is like living proof from
You just have to kill what you love.
CEO. You have to be ready to kill everything you love, which is an
Or
awesome
destroy
thing
everything
tonight.
you love, I think he said.
Yeah, destroy.
But yeah,
But really cool from the Intercom team.
Yeah, congrats on 400 million ARR as well. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, that's dope.
Anyway, before we have our next guest on, Airwallex leave our daily business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com. I believe we have Andrea in the show. We're just waiting. Andrea, can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Welcome to the show, dude.
Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. Probably worth just explaining who you are, what Thrad is, and yeah, we can go from there.
Absolutely. So I'm Andrea, the co-founder and CEO of Thrad. We're doing paid ads in LLM, so not geo, actual paid media in AI, where we build advertising infrastructure for AI companies to make money from ads. So any chat interface can integrate our API. We inject sponsored responses in the chat interface with the chat. Once in a while, one of the messages is sponsored, exactly like what OpenAI Ads is doing, but we do it for other companies. And then brands, advertisers, agencies can buy those ads. Today, we're doing millions of ads per day. We're used by incredible companies like the logos that you can see back here.
go.
And yeah, it's super exciting times. I mean, OpenAI Ads was announced a few weeks ago. Now they're piloting. And so there's been this explosive demand for brands that want to buy ads in LLMs. There's obviously incredible intrinsic performance. People are very engaged. And so we get to capitalize a lot of those budgets where OpenAI has $500,000 minimum spend. And so we really lower the barriers to entry. We have a lot more data for them. And so, yeah, it's exciting times for us.
That's
Nice.
so cool. And talk to us about the tailwind from OpenAI launching the fact that they were doing ads. What did that do for inbound of the company, and how did that kind of change conversations? Like sales conversations.
Yeah, I think it had a huge impact, not only on the demand side, advertisers wanting to allocate budgets to paid ads in LLMs, but also on the supply side, actual publishers, AI companies that have chat interfaces, that have prompt interfaces that now have the legitimacy to monetize with ads, right? Especially the developer community are very reluctant to ads, right? Especially lately, advertising has had a very bad advertising, right? The Claude ads in the Super Bowl, a lot of people are hating ads. And so what that means is that Silicon Valley was against ads. People were not willing to monetize with ads. And so now they have the authority to go out there and say, hey, actually, advertising is not that bad if done well, right? And so it actually enables my users to have a free product, right? It subsidizes the experience, it boosts their growth, it boosts their monetization from the pure ad revenue, it boosts their monetization from upselling users from a free tier to the paid tier, and it boosts growth because people can use the product more, right? I have more usage because people can subsidize the tokens. And so actually there is a net positive.
That's so awesome. What I have to ask, like, how I think there's a stigma in the industry, where in any sort of tech industry or software industry, where like if a Google or an OpenAI or an Anthropic or an Amazon or whatever it is, like a large enterprise, rolls out a sort of quotation marks feature that is somebody else's product, that it can be a deathly scenario for that company. I think that what is maybe more true, and you've probably experienced this, and I've experienced it in the past, where it kind of educates the market for you. So it makes people
Exactly.
more aware of not just your product, but the pain that you're solving and the value that you can provide, right? I'd be keen to hear, like, yeah, how was it on the day
Absolutely.
that you found out?
It cements the market. It creates a market which did not exist before, right? And so you have just on the education side, and then the education which then creates the budgets. Right now, there's OpenAI ads. Well, every marketing team in the world wants to deploy. They want to diversify their marketing mix, right? And so they're going to allocate some to social and Meta, some to Google. Now I want to allocate to paid ads in LLMs. And so you do have the walled gardens, OpenAI ads. Amazon actually already has ads inside of Rufus, right? And so there's a lot of those companies that are doing these things, and that's where startups like ourselves are super powerful, really pushing the innovation, right? Not only being at feature parity with those mega caps, but actually, pushing the frontier of what's possible. We're the first company in our space to open source 2 AI models. So a lot of the hate, right, which ads and LLMs have been getting, some of it is legitimate. There are truly risks when you do ads and LLMs, right? The trust that users have with AI is so tight that even if you label an ad as an ad, which we have to disclose, right? You don't want to deceive users when you're showing ads in AI. Even if it's labeled as an ad, it might not come across as an ad, right? Just because of the relationship that I have with AI, the trust. And so you need to put barriers, you need to create safety layers. And so that's why some of our open source efforts are really trying to push the industry, especially ad tech. The advertising technology industry is not, in the direction of open source. And so we're really trying to push it in that direction.
And talk to us about your personal kind of like interest in ads. I remember speaking to you, and dude, you're like enthralled by ads. Ads is like the coolest business model ever, right? Talk to us about that and where you see the opportunity for Thrad in kind of the future generally.
Absolutely, I'm probably the most addicted 22-year-old in the world to advertising, obsessed, disease level, obsessed with advertising, where like that's literally my purpose in life. I live for advertising. I would literally die for advertising. And it seems crazy to say that, but
I should have got you to do an ad read.
No, absolutely. But to put that into context, kind of my definition of advertising expands the traditional scope of advertising to my definition of advertising, which I borrow from Seth Godin, is spread ideas that matter to people who care, right? And that's what advertising is about. It's not about force feeding people with products that they don't want. It's actually sharing ideas. There's amazing products in the world. There's amazing startups. There's amazing services. And so we should share that with people that should know about them, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do, right? That's what even prompted me to start Thread in the first place, where today with Thread, we're able to connect literally millions of people with brands that they should know about, right? Connecting them with brands that they should know about, connecting them with brands that they love, actually helping them, right? Like if you think about it from first principles, people have problems, right? And companies solve people's problems. And a lot of people inside of LMs, a lot of people chatting to AI have problems. They're like, hey, help me write me a report, help me improve my email, help me write my essay, help me with my travel, right? And so that's why we show them TripAdvisor, which can actually help them achieve their goals. It's going to help them solve their problems around travel, right? And so that's what advertising is about.
Within that, there's been conversations around like how do you do it in a tasteful way, right? Like obviously the Anthropic ad was a kind of hyperbolic take on what a dangerous, if you will, scenario could look like when it's just sort of like blindly ignoring what you're saying and just chucking it in all willy nilly. Well, what does good look like for this? Like how do you do it in a tasteful way that could be sort of, because I don't think I think they're a great thing. I don't think that they need, I think it's really smart that people would want to do this and it makes a lot of sense, but yeah, how do you get it right?
I think this needs to be an industry level effort, right? No one single company can define the standards there. And so we need to implement standards. We're working closely with the regulators. I recently spoke with IB Tech Lab. They're the global advertising regulator. And so that's where actually open sourcing, having transparency, can actually create those standards in which, hey, this is the code of conduct that advertisers should have, right? The other part of it is that like this can actually be executed well, right? Advertising can be not only complementary to the user experience, it can be additive to the user experience, right? You want to get to a point where the ads are so good that actually I want to be there for the ads, right? The ads are genuinely helpful for me. And so that can be done, right? In the same context that I was saying, like solve brands that actually solve people's problems, like it can be additive, right? Even today in Instagram, I think it's like, it's still single-digit percent of users, but there's a non-negligible percent of users which go on Instagram just because the ads are so good, right? And this is something that even Sam Altman himself spoke about. And so this is one of our core principles.
I have noticed that, to be fair. The Instagram ads are
Instagram
actually
ads are
really
super,
good.
yeah, they're super
I've
good.
never really, that's crazy.
It's like if I want to find a good product, I react with stuff that, is in that product sphere that I like, and I know that I'll get given a good product.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's talk about your book launch. You've literally launched the book today. Let's
Absolutely.
talk more about it. What is it? And it's awesome.
Yeah, so we just launched today. Mark loves marketing. This is an extension of my obsession with marketing, which I'm literally thinking about marketing all day, and so because of some of these just negative bad vibes that I've been hearing from just people in the industry. I've been speaking to people in the big tech companies that work, Meta ads, LinkedIn ads, Google ads, and even marketing teams and agencies that tell me, hey, I don't feel that actually we're saving the world. And I have actually the opposite view. I think that advertising is one of the most powerful innovation that were created by society, because they were the business model of the internet. Right? They were what subsidized the internet, what enabled global access to the internet. And so I wrote this book to inspire the next generation of marketers, to show that actually marketing can be very powerful. It can serve for good, right? It is about spreading ideas that matter to people who care. And so sharing that with the next generation of marketers to kind of inspire them. And at the end of the day, we're all marketing 24/7, right? We're marketing to our partners, we're marketing to our co-founders, we're marketing to our investors, we're marketing to our employees, we're marketing in all contexts, even at school, all the time, right? To our classmates, to our professors. And so marketing is extremely powerful. And so this is more to kind of share the positive aspects of it.
That's really cool. That's such a super cool, like, creative way as well to, I mean, I guess there's some sort of like lead funnel as well
100%. I
attached to
think
it.
this is also, you know, startups live by their innovation, not only in the product side, but I think a lot of innovation derives from the go-to-market innovation, right? This is what you guys have been incredible at doing. And I think we need to think about marketing not only as like, hey, I'm going to make a post, but one of my core principles is marketing is around the concept of underpriced attention, right? I want to capture a lot of eyeballs for the lowest possible price. And so how do you do that? You need to implant memories in people. You need to seed emotions in them. And how do you do that? By betraying expectations and by providing true value to them, right? A lot of our customers and a lot of our industry are parents who have children, right? And they want to share about their job, and they don't have stories to tell them about their job. And so this is also one of our initiatives where we're giving away free books to agencies. And HR teams are giving it to their marketing teams, right, within the company, so that they can share about that. And so that's also kind of a creative go-to-market, innovating on the go-to-market. And like most companies don't really do that. Like, who's gonna write a book for one campaign, right? And so this is where you want to do that, right? And like, we do a lot of these things. Like we hired the world's smallest marketer. He's a short man, like, and we launched with him. We launched with him the world's smallest marketing campaign with the world's smallest marketer. Like, it's so random, it's hilarious, but it's also fun, right? And so this was also an extension of what we stand at Thread, where we lower the barriers of entry for marketers, just like what other companies are doing in tech with vibe coding, enabling non-coders to code. We enable non-marketers to do marketing with a single prompt. You literally say, launch a campaign for etn.com for X budget, launch. That's it. The campaign is going to be live. And so, all those initiatives are to kind of push this and bring our brand to life through these initiatives.
That's so cool. Do you? I'm sure you wish more people are more creative with their ads effort and their GTM efforts. Where do you feel the main opportunity for brands and companies nowadays, whether they're kind of like seed stage, their Series A, or later stage, where do you feel like they should be going to capitalize, especially with like ads and LMs, other than obviously going to Thread?
Yeah, the thing with ads and LLMs is that every news cycle, right, you have this underpriced attention, the arbitrage of underpriced attention. So the first Google ads, extremely performing. First TikTok ads, extremely performing. Why? Because you have this asymmetry between supply and demand. You have net new inventory, right? New supply of ad real estate, right? New people on TikTok, new people on Google, relatively few media buyers. And so in a system where people are bidding against each other to buy those ads, right? But not that many people are bidding. And so the bid is not that high. And so the cost of acquisition is not that high. And so you have this pure arbitrage there. But I think, I think startups should be doing a mix, right? They should be finding these gaps of underpriced attention, whether that be buying ads in LLMs, right? Very appealing unit economics, but also being creative. And so that's what I would encourage everyone. Just like come up with the most fun, creative things that you can do to capture your audience's attention and actually be helpful then, right? Love them, give them value beyond just the consumption of the ad, beyond just selling yourselves.
So
Dude,
awesome.
you heard it here first. What amazing advice.
Where can we send everyone? Where can we tell people to go? Like, we want to direct people to the book launch as well, and also we want to direct them to your sites. Like, where's the best place?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, you can go on Thread. You can find us at thread.ai. And we're gonna keep sharing. We're sharing a lot on LinkedIn, and so yeah, keep following us there.
Let's do
Nice.
it.
I love it. I love how the king of ads has ads behind it.
Yeah, he's
like,
always
you're the first guest to have.
You have to,
to
you
have
have
a
to.
TV with ads on it.
We love it, dude. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Great chatting.
Yeah, have a great day.
Good stuff. See you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Up next, we have Connor McNamara, EMEA CRO at Stripe. We've been absolutely buzzing for this conversation since the release of the annual letter and also the employee tender offer.
Before we
jump into that, I want to tell you about our friends over there at Airwallex. Leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all in one platform. Go to airwallex.com and also Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Without any further ado, we are welcoming Connor onto the show, and the trumpets have played to celebrate his entrance. Connor, thank you so much for joining us today. We've been pumped with this conversation. How are you?
Hey guys, good. Thanks for having me. Greetings from sunny Dublin. Sun is shining here for the first time in 2026.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, we're starting to get slithers in London. I think today we've been mugged off though. It's looking pretty dull.
It is the first day of 26 that a drop of rain will not fall on the entire island of Ireland, or so I've been told.
We were telling guests this like last week.
Yeah, last week it was the same for London, but we've had a few days of sunshine. So,
yeah, it rained every single day. Which is funny. We were telling people the same thing. Enough about the weather, how very traditional of us. We want to talk about the annual letter. There are just some absolutely crazy stats that came out of this that everyone was talking about. Everyone was discussing it online. The first one, and I almost want to just talk about each individual one if that's okay. But the first one. The 1.6, this is 1.9 trillion total volume, but 1.6% of global GDP approximately coming through Stripe. Can we just, I said to Luke, this is one of the most nuts stats I've ever heard in relation to a technology company. And we'd love to hear just broadly from you, like what that is, what that means to the company and how you guys feel.
Yeah, like it's a really a testament to the success of the users that are using Stripe. The number grew 34% year on year as well. So, Stripe has been heavily indexed towards the fastest growing parts of the internet economy. In total, 5 million companies globally use Stripe in 2025. So 2 million of those were in Europe. And so there's a real diversity in that customer base, from the fastest growing early stage startups, AI companies, of course. We're very lucky to work with almost all of the AI companies that have been minted over the last couple of years. SaaS platforms, we believe we played a big part in pioneering SaaS platform economy, and that's been a big driver of our growth. Digital marketplaces, and of course, large enterprises as well. 80% of the NASDAQ 100, for example, and there's real diversity in the customer base. And I think people are seeing that. Working with Stripe and working with the suite of offerings that we have, allows you to pivot out of low revenue mode, as we call it, and take advantage of all of the various AI-driven components of our offering, not just the core payments proposition, to accelerate their growth.
I wanted to specifically touch on one of the stats about there's more companies, or the number of companies that are reaching 10 million ARR within 3 months is growing. And I wanted to talk about the tailwind of obviously AI and everything that's going on today. What does that mean for Stripe in terms of operationally? How have you guys been able to kind of I guess capitalize on that for your customers?
Yeah, so that number, the number of companies that have reached 10 million ARR within 3 months of being founded has doubled versus the 2024 cohort, right? So
yeah,
it's the 2025 cohorts grew 50% faster. So there's two things interesting in that. One is the number of companies starting on Stripe is increasing very fast, and then they're also materially growing faster. So I think that's super interesting. So like we're obviously working with AI companies, and we saw the last probably wave of that in 2020 odd with the SaaS platform kind of wave. But what we've seen is that those 0 to 10, 0 to 50, 0 to 100 cohorts are just getting through those cohorts much faster in this cycle than we saw in previous years. And it's early in 2026, but we're seeing that continue over the course of 2026 as well. And it's again not just payments. I mean, we talked a lot about in the letter as well about the investments we've made. We've just acquired a company called Metronome that will roll into our revenue finance and automation suite. Like they're working with the likes of OpenAI, etc., to build the usage-based billing engine for all of these AI companies. AI companies it's a highly fast-moving pace, and I think they're all building quite customized monetization models, and being able to work with a programmable company like Stripe that can build monetization models on the fly to align with their business models is really, really important to them, and that's kind of a big area of growth as well. And then the other one we talked about is kind of being global by default. In the letter, we talk about the fact that Google, believe it or not, it took them 4 years to accept their first payment in the UK. From an advertiser after being founded. And we're seeing, companies now literally go global from day one, access to 100 companies with 100 countries, with Stripe, 120 payment methods. And, you have tax compliance and things like that, and local presentment of currencies out of the box. So it's like a complete game changer, really, because all of these companies know that if you just serve the largest, economies in the world and your home economy, you're leaving an awful lot of money on the table. Like another stat in the doc talks about the fact that 30% of revenue comes outside of the top 10 economies in the world and the home country of the business. So there's a real long tail here, and your ability to get access to that long tail quickly is super important to your overall momentum as a business.
For Stripe, I'm interested because I've always seen Stripe as almost like an enabler, right? Where you have these companies kind of building, and they all have very specific use cases, and as you mentioned, kind of business models are changing, and these companies are acquiring different, very specific business models to kind of do what they want to go and do. How much of Stripe's job is almost like just to get out of the way, just to like kind of let these companies figure out what the best thing to do is, then just be the thing that enables them to go and do that? I want to ask, specifically how you guys think about that.
See, like our mission is to grow the GDP of the internet, and I think a lot of it is removing friction for companies of all sizes in terms of like their monetization and their revenue and monetize, like that whole end-to-end process. And I think if you think about Stripe, really we're thinking of building a financial infrastructure company that we believe is kind of category defining, and hope will be a generational company, we hope, if we continue to execute well. And a lot of what we do should be invisible. Like the whole idea is to be built on abstraction. If you think about payment methods, like no one, the fact that you can present a customer with Blick in Poland and get a 40% uptick in your conversion rate, like that's great. But if you have to build that integration every time across the globe, it's like super, super painful. So the idea of Stripe is trying to do is to abstract that complexity away through, building these integrations, and then using AI to ensure we present the right things to the right consumer at the right time. And of course, then wrap the whole thing with a fraud management model where, we have access to a huge amount of data around the world in terms of just visibility into like buying patterns and behaviors of merchants, and like identifying potentially fraudulent transactions and getting ahead of that as well, on behalf of users. And we're saving our merchants billions of dollars every year by kind of predicting those things.
I had another question about kind of single person businesses. Obviously, Peter Steinberger being, semi-acquired by OpenAI. There was speculation of that being $1 billion deal, which I don't know how much, data is behind that. But are you guys seeing, or how much growth are you seeing in the kind of solopreneur route? Are you?
That's
I feel like there's so many more.
If you go back and read the 24 annual letter versus the 25 annual letter, there's kind of a whole section on that. I think, again, like there's a great kind of, I think, analogy in the previous letter around, pizza companies in the US and like pizzerias. And there's been a kind of a multi-decade decline in the number of those that have been opened in the US. But actually, in the last number of years, there's been an increase because that cost to serve and the cost of like having overhead and your ability to get increased reach through a SaaS platform type economy means that like the whole economics of these businesses is totally changed. And so you have these increasingly edge case type business models from, whatever, dog walking to all sorts of different things that really weren't viable businesses 10, 20 years ago and are super viable now when you kind of overlay what Stripe is doing. And, we're also seeing a big uptake, obviously, in that embedded finance piece from like, issuing and capital. We talk about capital in the letter as well. There's been a huge decline in the amount of lending to small and medium businesses. Like in Ireland, it declined 66% between 2011 and 2019. And, if you can grease the wheels of small to medium businesses and give them capital when they need it, like they just grow faster. Like we did some analysis and compared two similar cohorts, and the ones who took capital from Stripe and the ones who didn't, the ones who did grew 27% faster. And I think we believe that that's going to be a big lever for global growth in the years to come.
That's awesome. It's kind of connected to, there's like another sort of separate topic that I thought was really interesting, and maybe you can speak to, like why on a broad level this is, but we are seeing this sort of creation of a sorting machine you guys refer to, where winners are pulling away at a quicker pace than ever from people who aren't not winning, but the winners are very clear and they're getting away from the pack. Can you maybe just talk to us a little bit about this?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways of looking at this. Like we talk about, the concentration of value, like equity value, and then the concentration of profits in the US economy. And like it's becoming increasingly concentrated. Like you've heard the term the K-shaped economy, I'm sure. And like that's something where, you can see the divergence of the winners and the losers is becoming ever more pronounced. And I think we're definitely seeing that. And I think, we talk about the fact that, there is no surer bet than payments in terms of like an ROI in your time, and hence the low revenue mode reference. And we talk about like Gatwick Airport, and we talk about Microsoft and the various, ROI measures they've seen by using Stripe in the last 12 months. Like we've also seen this we talk about in this section as well as, it's funny that, startups maybe 5 years ago were starting by building natively on hyperscalers. Like now startups are starting on top of these coding platforms, like Replit, for example, like Vercel, like Lovable, and so on. And, when they're building these applications, they obviously then want to be able to pivot and monetize those applications quickly. We've got this offering called claimable sandboxes, and there's over 100,000 of them, as referenced in the letter, have been spun up already. And so, you're building this kind of idea and you want to turn it into a monetizable business quickly, and you can do that immediately with Stripe. And so there's lots of different kind of moving parts here, but definitely like there's a divergence. I mean, we talk as well in the letter about e-commerce versus like bricks and mortar and so on. And I think just embrace the tailwinds that exist around technology. Try and not do the things that others can do better on your behalf, and then try and take access to these, businesses like Stripe that can give you an ability to, treat the internet economy like your domestic economy. I think that's a big one. Like now it's really is a global game, and if you're treating your TAM as a particular country and you have these borders in your business, then like you're already, kind of behind the eight ball versus a lot of your competitors.
Yeah. I wanted to just kind of following on from that. We are going to talk later on the show about an article, and we've talked kind of briefly about it to another guest by Alex Immerman. He's at A16Z, and the title of the article is "AI Will Eat Application Software," and it's basically talking about how like the consolidation of like thin wrappers and everything else will kind of ultimately be a massive like catalyst for growth for the ones that are genuinely kind of providing a solid service and really like moving a market forwards. And it kind of touches on that like consolidation piece. I wanted to ask your thoughts about whether you think, the kind of SaaS apocalypse and all of that kind of stuff, like where's the healthy side of the market? That he kind of mentioned that it's healthy that all of these thinner wrappers will be, they might die, but then all of these other companies are just making so much more money because it's all kind of concentrating in towards those guys, right? Do you think that that's healthy, or do you feel that there's more opportunity kind of in the lower end to kind of take up all of the kind of low hanging fruit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's TBC, right? I think what we're seeing on the SaaS platform side, for at least for now, is that like the SaaS businesses are still doing very, very well, right? We're not seeing like businesses fall off a cliff or anything because of what's been said out there. That being said, it's likely that the whole economics and the whole business model of like building technology and software is likely going to change, of course, right? With what we're seeing with agents and so on. And Patrick has talked in the last few days about this idea of, software should be like a pizza where you kind of build it when you need it, as opposed to having it pre-built and then, reuse kind of infinitely. And I think that whole model of like how it will work in the future, and then the monetization model that wraps around that, I think is going to be super interesting. I mean, that's where we have, stable coins, and we've made a big bet on stable coins. We talk about that as well. And the whole like machine to machine payment landscape and how all that's going to unfold. Like, we're pretty bullish that, the future, a lot of like what's going to happen in terms of online commerce is going to be done from machine to machine in the future. And the investments we've made in Bridge from an orchestration standpoint, Privy with the wallet, and then obviously the Tempo or blockchain that we believe that the current blockchains out there are not optimized for the payments volume that will be required to support a stablecoin centric online economy in the future, when you potentially need up to billions of transactions per second. So like, there's lots happening in that space. I think it's fast moving, and I think we're just gonna have to watch it and see. But I think we're trying to, build the infrastructure for the AI economy for the future. And I think it's highly likely that, agentic, of course, that stablecoins will be a big part of that.
Yeah, we spoke to the founder at Decagon last week, and he mentioned Decagon building towards the future and kind of trying to make it happen that eventually every company will be interacted with through agents, but then eventually every human being will have its own agent, and therefore they will eventually have to interact with each other, and therefore payments will have to flow, as you mentioned, from machine to machine, right? Super interesting.
And then we saw on the annual letter specifically that it's like the ACP, the Agentic Commerce Protocol, and then also the machine payments. And you guys are hosting it with like USDC is what the sort of the currency Agentic Commerce can sort of run with. This is becoming more and more popular as people are starting to realize the power of like agentic workflows, but also the both the collaboration and the exchange from an agent to agent. Are you guys basically betting big on the fact that in the not so distant future, or maybe define that however you like, but we will see agents that don't require human permissions to carry out transactions on behalf of those humans, essentially? So it's just no human in the loop; they can just run.
Yeah, I mean, again, the guys done a pretty good job in the letter of laying out these 5 levels of agentic commerce. So level 1 is basically like where someone fills out a form on your behalf, and it works up to the point where it's completely unprompted transactions happening by an agent on your behalf based on perceived needs that you have as an individual, right? And so there's layers in that, and we're probably between 1 and 2 right now. As John has said, and I think we're going to see movement up that curve over the next kind of months and years as people's trust matures in the system. From our standpoint on agentic, first of all, like, we're very focused on, like, we look at the internet era, like in the 90s, where standards are super important, open standards are very important, interoperability is very important, and having this agentic commerce protocol that you referenced, that allows, it's an open standard. It's not just you don't have to be on Stripe and process payments on Stripe to leverage it, is a way to kind of promote this interoperability across the ecosystem to support agentic. Even like shared payment tokens, where a lot of people don't want to be sharing their credentials online. You have these tokens, and again, that's an open standard. And then the agentic commerce suite, which is a tool set that incorporates even what Google have launched recently from an open protocol standpoint, and allows you to build this kind of integration layer that allows merchants to build integrations once to multiple AI surfaces from a agentic commerce standpoint. So, like, again, we're trying to build the infrastructure here to abstract away the complexity for the merchant and for the consumer. And of course, we're partnering closely with OpenAI, and what's happening with Etsy and so on. ChatGPT has been powered by Stripe. We're working with Microsoft in bringing commerce to Copilot, and look, there's many more working on kind of in the pipeline as well. So that's a super exciting area. And then like stablecoins is different but highly related. Is more like what do we see as the online landscape looking like in the future, and will it need to be real time? Will it need to be borderless? Will the transaction like order value likely be a lot less than what it is today? And will the cost need to be much lower than what it is today? And if the answers to all those things are yes, then I think a stablecoin enabled payment landscape is going to be like very, very important to enable that agentic commerce wave.
Yeah. It's funny. I was listening to David Senra's recent podcast episode with Brian Armstrong, like CEO at Coinbase, and it was surprising to me just how far along we are, or the crypto space is as an industry, that you don't really hear too much about now in terms of like the back end stuff, in terms of like how closely the banks are now happy to work with Coinbase in particular, or how happy like traditional institutions are to fully engage with blockchain. And it does, it's just not something that you hear too much.
Like $400 billion in payments volume via stablecoins last year, and 60% of that was B2B, and so I mean, there's interesting use cases here from remittances. If you think about the global remittance, like it's such an obvious use case. If you think about managing payroll, like Deal is a good example. We're working with Deal with Privy and their wallets around the world to pay developers all over the world. Like that's a good one. If you think about treasury management, working with Starlink in terms of like repatriation of funds to the US and so on. I mean, we do a lot from a Stripe standpoint that we've talked about publicly to enable, more streamlined treasury management with stablecoins. So I think there's a lot there, and I think you're right. Like I think people are starting to really understand like what a big lever it could be.
Yeah, super cool.
Sure.
I have just one more question. Do you have?
No.
One more question.
Stop? Do you need to go?
No, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Amazing. It's just one last one. It is one of my favorite things about this, and we actually have a few of them here. The Stripe Press books.
Yeah.
This is one. We've got another one on the side there from Charlie's Almanac. You guys crossed over 1 million sold of these books in the annual letter. We spoke to Sam Bowen, who's the head of publishing over there at Stripe, previously who founded Works in Progress. We'd love to hear the story from this side is you feel that these books are helping to increase the global GDP, or the GDP of the internet as well, which aligns with Stripe's mission statement. Could we just hear a bit more about the book sales, like how this was received internally? Was this the goal, the 1 million?
I don't think it was ever a goal. I mean, I think I think in general, like Patrick and John, believe that diversity of ideas is a good thing, and giving people like ideas fuel economic progress, and creating pathways for interesting stories and ideas to galvanize is a good thing. And I think there's lots of benefits to it, and really it's I don't think it necessarily the objective was to get to 1 million or 1.1 million as it is. I heard yesterday as it is now. But yeah, I think getting that out there is great. I mean, there's also a craft and beauty element to it. I think if you look at the books and you feel the books, and the Stripe is big on craft and beauty in terms of just doing things right for the sake of doing them right, not just for a monetizable ROI. And I think that comes through in the books very much. And I think we are very doc heavy culture. I mean, we believe in reading, and I think a lot of what we do is just driven by curiosity, not necessarily with a monetizable angle to it, but that we can create this community and create this foster kind of big ideas. And I think if anyone who listens to Patrick and John speak will know that they think big and broad about all these different types of things. But yeah, Poor Charlie's Almanac is probably my favorite one right now. But there's still a lot of good ones out there.
Yeah, I think Bubbles and Stagnation is probably.
That's a good one.
That's a really good one. That's a banger. Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Connor, we've run over time. Thank you so much for giving us an extra couple of minutes. Thanks for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
Great speaking to you. Thanks very much.
Stuff.
Cheers, Connor. Ciao.
Awesome stuff. Quick word from our sponsor, Framer. Build better sites faster. The all-in-one platform where enterprise teams design, build, and ship production-ready websites. No dev handoff, no bottlenecks, no creative compromises. We migrated ETN to Framer ourselves, and it was easy. Go to framer.com/ETN. Next on the show, we have
We have
the co-founder and CEO of Framer.
Yeah.
But before that, yes, I want us to talk about this article. So good news: AI will eat application software. I've pulled out a few bits and I want to kind of to talk about it, but the market is panicking over a SaaS apocalypse. AI will ultimately be a massive, and they think AI will ultimately be a massive catalyst for growth in the software industry rather than its destruction. So a few points. So software ETFs and major companies like Salesforce and Adobe have seen 25% to 30% drops in value due to fears that AI will hollow out the industry. And they take a different stance to this. So the bear case assumes that software value lives in its code. However, Emmerman, who wrote the article, argues that it has always been a commodity that could have been replaced by open source or cheap labor years ago. Basically, it's like a survival of the fittest type thing, right? Model that they're playing on. Companies with outdated models or thin wrappers, as we say, might die. This is kind of viewed as like a healthy process that will lead to much larger total software market. They bring in like Hamilton Helmer's like 7 powers, network effects, switching costs, brand, cornered resources, so like proprietary data as a moat, and process power. So like, software like Legora, for example, like it encodes specific organizational workflows within the company. And so like they're embedded within the law firms that Legora work with. And it essentially kind of, puts forward this bifurcation of companies that are thin wrappers, like vulnerable companies because they have, no moat. They have kind of like very thin, I guess, functionality of kind of what they do and what problem that they solve. But then those delivering kind of genuine value will thrive even larger than they ever would. And so they're basically saying SaaS apocalypse is a little bit too much. They believe in SaaS. He believes in SaaS. They still believe that the companies that are genuinely providing value and have the moats will just eat more of the pie.
Yeah, there's parallels to what Gokul was saying when we had him on.
Exactly.
In a way where like it's the thinner wrappers being like, I guess you're pricing it on an outcome, and then thicker wrappers being those that are more integrated via a system of record, like a Salesforce that, is you're pricing like, yes, the outcome, but also the data attached to that.
Yeah.
So like, yes, if you have Salesforce, you can't just flip it out for another thing because it's so integrated into the business, because the system of record is the value, like the fact that data storage is valuable.
And companies like Legora will be building for that, right?
Yeah.
They'll be, not in a not in like a destructive way to the customers that they work with, but with a, if we're working more closely and are integrated more heavily, we can provide a better service. But it also creates a moat for us.
Yeah,
it's like kind of like two sides, but both sides offer kind of utmost value. And I thought Jack at Airwallex had a super kind of like interesting piece. If we pull this up, he quote tweeted the article from Alex and said, "Good read from Alex Im. If AI becomes the operating layer, most vertical SaaS products become structured databases and APIs behind an agent. If that's true, feature moats compress fast replication costs trend towards zero. Brand and distribution might not work anymore without other moats, as the switching costs also comes down significantly." I thought that was a good take from him. Super interesting. But yeah, I mean, it's. I agree. I mean, what's your stance on it? Are you SaaS apocalypse pilled? Are you not?
I think the best description we've had, I think, is a combination. Again, like my opinion is based off the opinion of the smart people that have been building in this space for ages, that have come on our show to talk to us about it and educate us about it, which we're incredibly grateful for. And that's a combination of both Gokul at Marathon Management Partners and also Nicola, CEO of PolyAI, where Nicola speaks. I mean, we spoke a little bit about it at the start of the show, but Nicola speaks more towards like these companies are no longer trading at the multiples they were trading at because they're not positioned to capture the future value of the agentic layer, which is the new sexy thing. So they're still SaaS, they're just not sexy SaaS, is what Nicola was saying as a direct quote. And like in parallel, Gokul's then sort of building on what he's saying by adding timelines to this, where you need to be very, very conscious of like, one, what is your company? Is it a thin wrapper, or is it sort of more integrated where there's like a system of record attached to it, like a Salesforce?
And so that's what Jack is basically saying, and is like, I agree. What I'm saying is like enduring moats are gonna like rely on, you know, proprietary data. That's kind of like the moat. Proprietary data layers is the moat. You've got like network effects as well, kind of being a moat. But like, you know, I guess like UI and like that kind of thing, it's just not you know, being sexy in now fairly unsexy place to build isn't good. But if you're building kind of with that system of record being in place, that's where the true kind of moat comes from, and they'll in kind of like consequence take more of the value, more of the upside of the potential value being being taken.
And then they need to be, you know, aware of it and conscious of it as well.
Exactly. Talking about Airwallex, leave outdated business banking behind with Airwallex, the all-in-one financial platform built for the pace of modern business, multi-currency accounts, corporate cards, expense management, online payments, all-in-one platform. Go to airwallex.com. We should move on to Mark Andreessen's thing. His speed wins before we jump into anything else. We have 50 minutes before our next guest on, but speed wins, apparently, according to Mike Andreessen. He talks about the OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, and act. Should we watch the clip?
It's 4.5 minutes. You want to do it all?
Maybe not, but like, you know, talk about
OODA. Yeah, hold on.
Speed wins. Speed wins as compared to mass winning. Speed wins, and so if you believe that, then there's basically this framework called the OODA loop, OODA loop, which originally was developed for fighter pilots and then later for broader military strategy. And the OODA loop, what OODA stands for, it's an acronym. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. And so it's basically the decision-making cycle, right? And so observe is like view the outside world. Orient is like figure out where you are in respect to the outside world. Decide, of course, decide what to do. Act, act, and basically what this guy Boyd who came up with this idea said was like any fighter pilot, any military operation, any basketball player, any company, any government, basically it goes through a decision-making cycle that's like that in order to make decisions. So we just talked about it. The New York Times has their own OODA loop. It's like 24 hours to go through their process, right? And basically what he said is like, if speed is the thing that matters, then the person who gets through that cycle the fastest is the one who's going to win. But he said there's a second order thing that happens. So one is just like, is your OODA loop faster than the other guys? So that's one question. But he said the other thing that can happen is if you can have a sustainably faster OODA loop processing cycle than the next guy, then if you think about what happens, like let's say it takes you an hour to figure something out, it takes the other guy 2 hours to figure something out. Think about what happens is like, okay, you start out on an even playing field. You both start your decision-making cycles. You make your decision within an hour. The other guy is still, say, is inside his own OODA loop when you make your decision, right? And so you make your decision, you act within an hour. He's only halfway through his process. He now has to start his process over, right? Because you've changed the landscape, you've changed the parameters of what's going on. So he now has to go back and reobserve and reorient and start over. Right. And then of course project forward. It's like, okay, then you decide again within an hour. And then by the time he gets halfway through his process, he gets interrupted. He has to go back.
Interesting. That reminds me, this is so weird.
And Brent Lang had a good thing where he was basically saying that's why new media is like, that's why new media wins, right? Is like, it's just faster OODA loops.
Faster OODA loops.
He obviously mentioned the New York Times 24-hour kind of turnover, or what did he call it? Like editing cycle. But new media just has a quicker.
Yeah, it reminds me of. Do you remember? This was probably off My First Millions, like 3 or 4 years ago. But they were discussing it on the pod. But there was a story around how I can't remember what university it was, but it was something in the US, like an Ivy League, pitched children under the age of like 8 against a group of adults between the age of like 35 and 45 or 50 or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a team of 5 versus a team of 5. And they were told to basically build a parachute for an eggshell. And they were told to like stand on top of the table and drop it off the table. And you only had an hour to do this, but you could go through like unlimited eggs. Like you have unlimited eggs, like just do it. And like the adults spent, in a way, similar to like the OODA loops, like the adults spent the whole like 50 minutes building one egg and making sure it was all right, and like being like, the kids just like got one, broke it straight away, like built another one, broke it straight away, and they went through like 4 or 5 iterations of that egg, and then in the end, when they came to like actually deploy it, because they've experienced like their like research framework was changing context so fast, because they were like, break it, okay, what did we just learn? That cool, rebuild, what did we learn? That rebuild. Yeah, it just reminded me of that. It's kind of
no. It's very similar. Also, funny enough, LinkedIn was talking about this 3 weeks ago. Cameron Langford came out with a LinkedIn post about OODA loops 3 weeks ago. He said, "Screw strategy, just do things." You can get this up. I put it on this thing. Screw strategy, just do things. That's the comms lesson we can take from James Boyd, the Kermadjianli. Don't know, can't pronounce that. Air Force colonel who invented the OODA loop. OODA stands for Observe, Orient, Decide, and Act. Boyd saw this rapid decision-making as key to success in modern warfare, where conditions change more quickly than old models accounted for. His insight was that winners didn't have a perfect strategy. They had the ability to make decisions faster, learn from them, and iterate. Similar to what we were talking about with Intercom, by the way. That's the best approach for comms too. In a media environment that's always changing, first movers have an unfair advantage. They can build strategies that work faster because they know the ground truth better than anyone.
Rare LinkedIn W.
Rare LinkedIn W. Only 17 likes as well. I don't even know how I found that.
Tough one for Cameron. What the hell is that word? I've never seen that word before.
No, I think it's a place. I think it's a place.
The curmudgeonly Air Force
maybe our producer can search that up and figure if that's a place. Thanks.
I don't think it is a place.
I don't know.
It would be capitalized if it was a place.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
It'd have to be.
I'm going to search it up.
Never seen that in my life. Well done to Cameron Langford though.
Is that
3 weeks ahead of the game. Love to see it.
It doesn't refer. No. So it's actually it's a word that means something that I've never heard about. Curmudgeonly. What is that? Describes a personal behavior that is bad-tempered, surly, cranky, and stubbornly.
Cranky James Boyd.
There you go.
The cranky Air Force colonel.
Learn something new every day.
Invent the OODA loop.
Yeah. Anyway, Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Go to polymarket.com. Next on the show, we have the co-founder and CEO of Framer, our newest partner to partner up with ETN, the world's most European podcast. Before we do that, let's jump back into the town hall.
Yeah, I want to get up. This is quite joke. I saw this attention span related. This is John Lober, at John Lober, says, at dinner, I was made aware of an SF-based 22-year-old CEO whose attention span is so cooked when he has to review a legal document. Someone on the engineering team has to vibe code him a video game that walks him through the legal language as a Subway Surfers adventure. Absolute banger, 280k views, 3.2k likes.
That is
a lot of bookmarks. This is so funny, and it actually, like, I can't remember. We saw that IDE company that YC funded that was basically just doing like brain rot, like as a like within your IDE where you just watch like Subway Surfers or something like that, whilst it's coding away for you, or bet on stake and stuff. But this is I have seen. There was that recent article that came out that it was trending in the space a little bit around how. I mean, we all kind of knew this anyway, but it was basically saying that short form content is not only like destroying your attention span, but it's also having other impacts on other areas of the brain that are associated to learning new skills. So it's actually like diluting your ability to concentrate on other areas and not just like focus on one thing, but also pick up
ability
new
to,
skills.
like, retain knowledge.
Yeah. So just making people dumber.
Because I guess like everyone's done a doom scroll, right? When you do a doom
Oh,
scroll, you look back after the 30 minutes, whatever you've been through, and you're like
you don't even know
I
what's
can't even
happened.
pick what I've just like,
You've
I
just
could be
gorged.
given the 100 whatever videos that I've just watched, and then you put them in a group of 500, and I couldn't pick out the ones that I just watched.
Well, your brain's just not properly on it, I don't think. And it's actually nuts. We saw, I can't remember if it was a BBC article recently, but not even school children, like nursery age style, to like maybe, what's that, like 1 to 3, are picking up books and trying to scroll the books. Like they aren't able to read the books. They're trying to scroll the pages with their finger because they're obviously so used to like seeing their parents or older siblings or whoever it is, using their device in the thing that is most commonly in their hand. They are scrolling with it. So yeah, it looks like, I mean, these are 1 to 3 year olds. John Lober over here is referring to a 22-year-old CEO in SF. So maybe that's, I don't know what problem's bigger. I don't know whether it's the future generation or this.
I feel like this generation's already, damage has been done. Let's make sure
they're gonna have to like create a new thing.
Don't poison the generation that hasn't even like
got
to the stage of talking yet.
Yeah, I mean they're scrolling books, so I think the damage has been done. That's John Lober.
How do you scroll books?
I mean, like they're just on the book, and obviously nothing's happening, so they probably think the book is broken, and then
book's broken.
Throw the book away.
Look at those books. I'm not going to use those things anymore. They don't scroll.
But yeah, tough one.
Anyway, next on the docket, next on the town hall. Sorry.
Did we see this from Malika?
No, Malika came out with a banger.
Yeah, this is quite gangster. Police are after us for that one. This one is from Malika at Malikules, also a friend of the show. Shout out to Malika. Killed it with this one. This is 1.1 million views. This is a lot more than it was when I last checked. Obviously, the sunlight has come out recently in a few European cities, including London, as we've just found out with the Stripe CRO with Dubai. But Malika writes, in France, we use one app to find terrace with the best sunlight and the second app to find cheapest pint of beer in that area. If you're not apro maxing with tech, then what is it good for? One of the cooler, more European use cases that we've had put through for vibe coding.
I hadn't seen that tweet until just now, and that's jokes. That's so good.
Banger,
Malika, banger.
How genius is that? So you can find, like, you can target.
I knew there were websites that you could find where the best sunlight was.
I never knew that.
Not just, but as in like it. I don't know many people, if not any people, other than Malika now, who actually actively use it to find the best sunlight spots.
Paired with
the best
cheapest spot to grab yourself a nice cold, refreshing beer.
That's super interesting.
Yeah, pretty cool. Thought that was a dope one.
Malika's finding
and rocked it. 27k likes.
She's finding 40 cents. When she's finding the cheaper beer.
But like multiply that by average
and
beer.
Vitamin D.
Average beer consumption per day, 50. That pained me to even say it out loud. That is not the average beer consumption per day for one of us. In fact, we've actually not been drinking this year.
We're Aperol maxing.
Yeah, like not in Italy. We had a few beers to be fair.
Aperol maxing, but
it's been a dry Q1.
Yeah,
really.
Fairly dry. Pretty good. We're locked in. It's fine.
We did have a few the other week with and we can't say the company name. It's probably like that agency.
We had a few with a great company. It was good.
Great
anyway,
guy,
let's talk about
great
Trader.
company.
Intercom's making lots of rounds in this show today. He says big failure pattern in the Web 2 era was making it extremely easy to do things that sadly no one wanted to do. A big failure pattern in the AI era is automating entire processes, workflows that actually no longer need to happen.
So I saw this and I put it in because, and in tech world and Twitter world and Showtimes, it's an eon ago. It's only from Feb 25th, but broadly referring to the big failure pattern in the AI era, automating entire processes and workflows that actually no longer need to happen is interesting because I feel like we've jumped from the potential problems using AI to automate things away, where like in Musk's biography, he writes up like a pretty great, he discusses a great example of how one can like over automate things that don't really need to be automated, where he basically automates the whole supply chain end to end. He starts automating parts of it and he's like, you know what, this whole thing should just be automated. Let's rebuild the whole thing and let's just automate it end to end. And then after, when he reflects on like how it went and how it's operating today, he kind of realizes that I was over automating. It's actually like now a problem. Like part of these, like it can be done quicker with a human just to check something and then put it back in, instead of, you know, you've got like, I don't know, like sort of like two sort of like robot-like hands that are picking up these sort of parts that are building larger parts and checking it. And that whole process just, it would have been quicker. Like usually you're trying to improve on a time constraint, but it even would have been quicker and less expensive to not automate that area. And I think, you know, what Des is discussing here a little bit is like the big failure pattern in the AI era, like automating the entire process and workflows. It's not even that like, oh, we'd be quicker doing it if we didn't automate them. It's that they don't even need to exist anymore. You can just wipe it out. Yeah. Which I thought was like an interesting parallel. But anyway, without further ado, we can move on to our last guest of the day, and one we've been super excited of. We're actually repping as much of the merch we got sent today, which we've been buzzing about. It's the co-founder and CEO. Oh, yeah, we're seeing if we can. Yeah, can we get this in? Yeah. Now,
can you hear us?
I can hear you very well.
How's it going, dude?
Pretty good. How are you?
Yeah, we're very good. We're very good. We're as we mentioned, we're repping the. You know that
when I came in today, I have to say we had to like tweet this out on our X account, because we've received a fair amount of merch here at the show. You know, we have like this cool F1 Lego car that we're eternally grateful from Airwallex and the Poly Market stuff and a few things behind us. But this Framer
you like the mug the best, huh?
Dude, the mug is like, it's not even just the mug. It's not even just the mug. It's like I was doing this on the mic earlier.
Yeah, it's all high quality stuff. Yeah,
it's like,
best
dude,
of the best.
Yeah,
exactly.
We were buzzing with that. So this is my favorite piece. I still like the other stuff, but this is my favorite piece.
Great. We're working on some cool keyboards too, so we'll send you some of those.
Let's go. Love to see let's
that.
Go.
Yeah, because we obviously got a few questions about design and taste, and I feel like that. You know, that answered the question.
Yeah, this is a good segue actually, because it's nice to see, and some of the greats do it, something that Steve Jobs is always famous for, but they allow the personality of the brand, of the company, to find its way into the products that they distribute, right? So let's talk about that, I guess. I mean, the merch pieces are, I guess, a microcosmic example of the quality that the Framer company and team adheres to. So we'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, we're a product company, right? So we want to kind of build a brand that kind of shows how much we care about stuff. Designers, or the best designers, tend to really care about products. And mostly you want that to be reflected in the product that you're building. I mean, the merch is nice too, but like everybody can do that. But building really great products that are fun to use is just really hard. And I think with Framer, we've always been trying to kind of push what products can do. On the web, like, you know, sort of like pushing the DOM to be a really good canvas, but also the whole experience around it. So hopefully if people use Framer, they can feel that it's built by a bunch of folks that kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah. And this, I guess it's like, it's a good segue into a topic that's being discussed at the moment that seems to be trending a lot more, that this element of almost like taste related to design is a comparative advantage for brands now. I feel like more brands are thinking about it a lot more so than they have been previously. We have, you know, theses or, you know, philosophies around why this is, mainly one being like the barrier to create is lower. Therefore, maybe you can say that the overall quality of what is created is lower as well. So it's maybe easier to stick out if, you know, with nice branding, with nice taste, with nice design. Could you maybe just talk a little bit about like, why do we think this taste thing is going viral at the moment, specifically around like enterprise and startups and stuff?
Yeah, I think it's going viral because nobody really can tell where it's going as the dynamics change. So for the last 20 years, like you could really tell the difference between, let's say, Apple and the rest, or like really good products and the rest, right? And if there would be a good new brand, then you could basically do marketing by just building a really good product. And the dynamics were that stuff was hard to build or expensive to build. And now we've all started feeling in the last year or so that things are getting cheap to build. And it becomes almost a philosophical question, like what happens to taste then? Is that something where, like the folks with taste that couldn't build before now suddenly can ship great products as well? Or is there some sort of like taste marketplace out there where, as sort of the tools get better and the average taste kind of like goes up, then people are just expecting more? And the answer is we just have to find out. There's a bunch of cool analogies that you can do, right? Like if everybody could build a house tomorrow without any effort, who would end up building great houses? And we'll just skip over the fact that most of the houses, if it were built by LLMs, then most of the houses wouldn't have like a front door, but they have 10 windows on the roof and stuff like that. That's another problem to solve, right? But like which houses would end up the ones that you actually want to live in? And I think nobody really can predict it. It would be really fun if the folks that couldn't build before but had great taste suddenly also found a way to build great products. But I think that all the great product builders have a hard time believing that that's solved, that's a solved problem. I think we could get closer to that, and LLMs are obviously the way forward, but like getting there will probably take some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a topic that, I don't know, we've been using the term, it's to create something nice. I don't think the AI tools are like 100% there, no human in the loop, one click, one prompt, boom, you've one-shotted like an amazing design. I don't think that we're quite there. I think that'll still take some time. But it's almost that like to create a beautiful thing, you have to like spend cognitive credits. Like you have to think about it, you have to build it, you have to like actually put time and effort into it. And it's almost that you could argue that the amount of time that was spent on it is the thing that makes it beautiful in a weird way when we look at like that design aspect to it. So I guess like, how do, is it possible to really marry those two, like the speed of creation with AI and the sort of the longevity piece around like high craftsmanship and design? Like, is that something that you can see being married in the future?
I would phrase it differently. I would say that usage makes things beautiful, right? Like if you look at old things, then typically they're prettier than new things if they kind of like have been used for a long time and kept up and they have character and stuff like that. And in a way, what I hope that LLMs can do for us is that if you have software that's like being updated for a long time, it doesn't always get better because like sometimes it doesn't get updated anymore, or like people just don't want to touch it anymore. But with LLMs that might change. So there could be, I think actually, if I would put it towards what you're saying, is that like in the design process you want to do a lot of iteration, and if you can continue to iterate while people are using the product for a very long time, I think that could make software a lot better, have that same effect, instead of just like, I don't know, like degrading over time with bit rot. And I think that'd be a very interesting sort of second order effect that we can see from these LLMs instead of just trying to one-shot apps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And talk to us about Framer and you guys, closing the imagination gap. How does that play a part in, where we're kind of going with agents and everything else in between? How do you guys feel about the future and your mission to do that?
Yeah, so I think, like with, if we look sort of the sort of returns that AI are delivering in sense of like, where's useful stuff being made? I'm not talking about like venture stuff, but like just useful stuff being made. And obviously the chatbot stuff is useful. There's a bunch of verticals, maybe like legal and support that are kind of working. But obviously code and building things is now the thing, right? Like that's if you're an engineer, then your work has changed more in the last year. And I'm an engineer. In the last year, like I've been working like 100% different from the 20 years before. And it's crazy. Like if you're not an engineer, it's hard to imagine like how much that changed. And it's basically, I chat like now 90% of the time, and maybe I code 10% of the time or something like that. And it's just like, it's just a given that other professions are going to go through a revolution like that. So the question is like, which one's next? And we think that the canvas, or actually if you just take a step back, like how do people like to interact with computers, then, chat is big. And then actually code, not so many people. There's like, I think 30 billion people or 30 million people that can actually write code. So that's not so big, but that has changed. And then you've got like Excel, like sheets. A lot of people can use a sheet, a lot of people can use a canvas. So there's something interesting where a lot of people are trying to tap into sort of this engineering revolution, and they're shipping actually things in a medium that they can't control. It's a pile of code, right? And it does something useful to them anyway. So for us, like it would be really interesting, instead of outputting a pile of code, we could output something that people could actually inspect and change. And that should live on a canvas. There's only a few companies with really great canvases, and one of it is us. And I think that'd be a very interesting next area to see how far we can push agents to help people do new stuff, but in a way that they can actually ship it. They don't get stuck at some ID prototyping phase, because they have the confidence to dig into the output, right? They can dig into the canvas instead of like just having this black box of code. So they'll have the confidence to actually ship that to a bunch of users. And obviously, we're also working in a vertical, right? We make websites. We don't try to do everything. Websites can obviously also be pretty broad. Right now, it's mostly static marketing, CMS stuff, but you can imagine that going broader if this works pretty well. But like, I think that also gives us like a pretty good sort of setup to push agents pretty far.
It's funny, like you mentioned, like the what is next? But I was surprised to see the creative world embrace AI, to be honest, like a lot earlier than I thought, with like video generation models. I think it was first like Dolly that I saw something where I was like, whoa, that's kind of mad. It's just created this image literally off a prompt. That was like a iPhone moment for me, I remember I was listening to, this is ages ago, but back in 2017, Naval was on, weirdly enough, it was Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was making predictions about AI in the future. And he was under the assumption that, yes, administrative jobs would go basically first, but he had this theory or philosophy around like there would be an equilibrium shift towards the creative world, where creatives were essentially salaried in a similar way that like investment bankers or high successful like knowledge workers are salaried like back then. So like kind of like a switch in terms of what are the most highly paid professions is people with the ability to think and be creative. And like now we've seen that, I don't know, in many ways, not completely, but the thinker or the ideas guy is becoming like really important. Like I remember Andrej Karpathy was saying that English is the new coding language, right? Your ability to think and convey your ideas to an LLM is now like actually incredibly valuable. I would love to hear your thoughts around that, and what your process is, your take.
I mean, I think this is one of the coolest parts of what's happening around sort of the creative industry. Like when I was a product designer and I started working at, so my first company got bought by Facebook. So I was there for a while, and this is like 10 years ago or 11 years ago. And the dream of every designer was to become a product designer at one of these FAAN companies and make design systems or internal tools and have a seat at the table, sort of like be a corporate startup person making a ton of money. And like, that was something that design looked really up to. And everybody was doing design systems and systems thinking. And you saw actually, I think a lot of hard skills kind of dropped in that era, and a lot of the softer skills like process and whiteboards and sticky notes. And I've always had an aversion against that, right? Like, because I'm a hard skills type of person. And like the whole company here is like, we like hard skills. So I never really, in some ways, I felt like I was a part of that, but I never really liked that phase. And I think this phase where those folks can now build their own stuff and start small internet companies that make millions of dollars is going to be so cool, because I don't have to listen to some corporate designer yapping on about design systems and how the internal tools don't get adopted anymore. That time's over. I can just look at cool stuff that people are building and like without any middleman, just like ship it to the world and get a bunch of stuff done and like really make something that people want. So I think it's like such a cooler time to work for designers right now than it has been the last 10 years.
So true. Yeah, like I mean, like isolated designs are just like being iterated on like all the time, and you can just be connected to like solutions like, from anyone really, right? It's just the abundance of building and ideas in this space. How do you kind of running Framer and leading Framer through that? How do you guys think about when you're, I guess, hiring and moving into different spaces and trying different products and all that kind of stuff? How do you guys think about everything else that's going on and the abundance of different paths that you can take? How do you guys focus on no, we're going to go and do, this because I really believe in it? How does that work in your process of kind of thinking?
Yeah, there's no process. So me and my co-founder are just product designers, and there's we're always playing and building things on the side. And there is a cool feeling if you work with other designers or makers, is that if you have something that works or that's good, then you'll have a few people at the same time just go yeah, that's good stuff. We should probably do that. And I think that's how a lot of decisions in Framer are made. We just mess around a lot. And then once in a while you see something, can be anyone in the company making, it could be a hackathon, could also be somebody just not listening to me for a couple of days and going off on some prototyping thing, and they'll show it off, and you'll just have 5 people agreeing that this is good stuff and we should probably do it. I think we have a lot of the opposite too, where we've pushed on AI way too early, where it was still more like a template slot machine, right? A year and a half ago, which was great for signups, honestly, but nobody ended up using it. I think we have an internal statistic that one of those first AI releases that we did, we had 500,000 signups, and we had 2 websites actually being used at the end.
No way.
And,
wow.
But the weird thing is that people kept coming back for it. So we knew at that point already, people are interested in this. They're just not getting the results that they want. I mean, they would use it for inspiration and stuff, but not really to ship something. And I think that's really changing rapidly right now. So I wish always that there's a bunch of golden rules how we do it, but it's just 5 good people in a room that agree that something is good.
That's so cool.
That's probably more efficient way to do it. But I have one last question.
Small, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Well, one last question, kind of related to what you just said. Then is this you guys made a slight pivot, right? And we were just reading about Owen Makabe's the Intercom story as well. They were known for doing a really successful pivot where Intercom rebranded into FinAI, and he's just wrote a piece and an article that we were discussing earlier about it. I would love to know about your decision making process when it comes to the pivot. A lot of it, Owen was saying in the article that you have to be ready to kind of destroy everything you love and rebuild. I'd love to, what was your sort of vision through that pivot? How did it go? What was the thinking there? I'm guessing obviously AI related.
Yeah, I can share, but before I do, I will tell all the other founders, don't do it, right? Don't do it like us. Don't pivot in Series C. It's stupid because it's probably not going to work out. And we were just honestly very lucky. I'll also tell all the VCs, stop calling me to tell your startups how to pivot because I can't explain it. It's just I'll probably tell them not to do it. But for us, it was just, the same as you hear from many startups, but we were actually quite successful in the beginning with an approach where we thought that higher fidelity tools or more hard skills tools for designers would win because we're all coming from Flash and coding. So we figured in this era of the FAANG designer that prototyping and sort of the programmer designer would become more popular, but the opposite one, right? So Miro and FigJam, actually lower fidelity design tools, actually ended up winning. So we got to a couple million in revenue and we just kind of got stuck. We had all the best prototypers and prototyping wasn't grown. So we just took a step back and we said, okay, so we have this canvas technology. Should we just fold? We have a couple million in the bank, or do we build something on top of the canvas that's actually still useful? And we thought, well, what's the most opposite thing that we can do? So first we were this small niche market of prototypers, sort of the best designers. And then we figure, let's go into websites, right? Everybody needs a website. Millions of websites get built every day. Let's just go after that. And if that works, if we get to 1 million a year, that's always kind of a good goal for a pivot, at least if you're a little bit later, right? You have to generate $1 million in the first year. Otherwise, it's not really, well, at least if you're beyond Series A, it's not really worth doing it. And that works. And honestly, that's a lot of luck as well, right? We couldn't, I'm I'm always happy to go. Like once we're IPO, I'll tell everybody it was like vision and that we all followed this up front. But yeah, it's like 50-50, you know. Like we were quite surprised how well it's been going. And then now, because we're not, let's say, because our output is not mock-ups, but actually something that you deploy and use, I think we're very well aligned in this whole AI boom coming up. Because I think that if you own the mock-up, you might have a harder time. Because a mock-up is to get stakeholder bought in to build expensive things. And I think it's kind of hard to predict how useful that's going to be when stuff gets cheap to build.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everyone, I mean, probably now, right? People can just sort of whip that up if they wanted to in terms of like an internal mock-up, you know, I'm assuming maybe a lovable.
I think you'll just skip it, right? You just go like from ID to building it.
Yeah.
I
agree. Because you can just iterate so much quicker on, you know, finding the next, the like end case. Okay, I don't like that. Another end case, instead of kind of doing 50% and then going back 50% doing, if that makes sense.
And also, people like previously who couldn't do that, who didn't have access to reach, let's say, stage 5 of that ideation creation process. Now they can just jump to stage 5 with a couple prompts, like in Claude or something.
Yeah, man. So interesting. Thank you so much for coming on. It's actually been a bit of a
we've actually taken 5 minutes more of your time than
Thank you very much.
We've reached out about, but that was awesome. We'd love to have you back on anytime, and we're excited to partner with you guys. We're absolutely pumped. So thanks for it.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Karen. Have a good one, man.
Great
Ciao.
to meet you.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Cheers, bye. Awesome stuff.
Boom.
There's the show. Just to finish off, Polymarket, the world's largest prediction market. Stay informed and profit from your knowledge. Thank you very much for tuning in. We love you. We'll see you on Thursday.
Ciao.